Welcome to the Toledo City Council regular meeting, August 19th, 2026. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Burns.
Yes.
Councilor Keating. Here. Councilor Straub. Here. Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
Councilor Riley is not here yet. I know he is coming. Councilor Chambers. Here. Council President Chambers, excuse me. Here. And Mayor Mix.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have 6 of the 7.
All right. We have a quorum and enough to do business. So the first item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak to an item on the agenda? I do not see anybody here. Does anybody online want to speak to an item not on the agenda?
One does. Give me a second. Go ahead, you should be able to talk.
Good evening. This is Cynthia George calling. I do have an issue I'd like to bring forward. I attended the Summer Fest this year, first time in many years, and took my grandchild. And I had planned on taking multiple grandchildren on Sunday for the fact that, like every year, I always expected to see a reduced fee for the bracelets at the Summerfest. This year, I was shocked to find out that the bracelets were $35 for the regular days and only $25 on Sunday. So we only got a discount of $10. That in itself precluded many, many parents in Toledo from ever taking their children on rides. I talked to people that were born and raised here, have always been able to take their families or go and attend on a Sunday. I know when I was raising my little children, I always had to wait until Sunday to buy bracelets for my children. I could never afford the full price on the rest of the Summerfest. We all ran and got the buttons during so that they could go and attend during the other days. But the rides were always purchased on Sunday. So I would hope that you guys would take that into consideration when you start negotiating with these vendors that come in to provide this, and see if we can go back to being a little more realistic for an economy that isn't real good for our local families. I mean, if you stop and think about what it would cost to take 3 and 4 children and get bracelets and get ribbons and all those things, all you're doing is making it limited to the very few. All right. So I thank you, and hopefully you guys will consider that.
Thank you, Ms. George. And for the record, the City of Toledo is not the Summerfest committee. We have no control over their vendors, what they charge, or any of that. So we've heard your comment, and thank you for that, but we are not the proper venue to bring that to. So thank you. Is there anybody else online?
Before we move on, I feel like there might be 1 or 2 people in the audience who are related, who are involved with the Summerfest committee. I'm just curious if there is. I just am curious if anybody knows how entities. And I'm sorry to call on this, but I wonder if anybody happens.
Point of order. I'm sorry, that's not appropriate. They need to go to the appropriate.
Yeah.
They need to go to the appropriate venue.
I was going to ask what the appropriate venue is.
Summerfest committee.
How would somebody get in touch with them?
They meet, I believe,
in October.
What?
The first meeting will be in October,
Okay, and which week is that you guys meet?
the second Tuesday of the month.
Second Tuesday of every month, of the month starting in October. So,
Thank you. That's what I was
okay,
curious about.
all right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so are there any other comments? I'm seeing none. So, were there any submitted comments? No, I didn't see any either. Okay, so next up for item is our consent agenda.
And just a quick, I was late to the minutes review this time, so I wanted to just mention a few that I sent to Paul in terms of things that I saw in the minutes. 3A2 should say Rod Cross, not Rob. 6B4, I just noted that my comment should have been extended to say, but acknowledge that Toledo's challenging retail situation may necessitate city funding nonetheless. And then 10F, I recalled saying that the Newport City Manager, Nina Vetter, had come to Art, Oysters, and Brews, but I wasn't the one who mentioned the county commission candidate. So they were small things, but I sent them to Paul, and I figured since I was too late to get them into the packet, that I should mention them in the record.
And Council President, the version that the mayor is signing tonight does have those corrections.
Wonderful. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as moderated.
Okay, it has been moved by Councilor Strong, seconded by Councilor Burns. Mr. Johnson.
Can you do that now? Councilor Keating,
Yes.
Councilor Coughlin,
Yes.
Councilor Riley, Council President Chambers,
Yes.
Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Strong,
Yes.
Mayor Mitz.
Yes. And I would like to note that Councilor Riley has arrived. Okay, we have no Toledo Beat and or presentation. Do we?
That's fine.
Okay, so the next item is Toledo Volunteer Appreciation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Burns at the last meeting asked that this be added as a discussion item for this meeting. I know that a priority has been raised by council to have some type of event to recognize and appreciate volunteers in the community. So this is an opportunity for council to discuss kind of what that event would look like, when might be a good time to host that. And so staff can start kind of putting together some plans for that event. So open for council discussion on the topic.
Of course.
It was my hope that, or it is my hope that we could perhaps put something together in this upcoming fall as our schedules kind of wind down a little bit more from other events. And really what I'd like to see is, and these are just thoughts that I've had, is that if we could gather and have a big, perhaps a potluck, where it's just a community gathering to, really give accolades to the people that actually make the events. It's not just the teams that drive it, it's all the people that show up each and every time to fill those different posts. So, and I'm open for suggestions, but I kind of wanted to keep it simple, because when we talked about it before, we gotta remember these guys and these guys, but kind of just since it would be our first one, to keep it simple, perhaps by just putting out the invitation, come and celebrate all that the town has been able to produce because of your volunteerism. We haven't really ever really recognized that I know of any volunteers, and I know that in the times that I've been meeting for certain things, people are kind of like a little burnout, or maybe unappreciated. I'm not sure which it is, or maybe both. I don't know. But so I think it would be a good thing for us to do. That's it.
There are a couple of events coming up this fall. In like December, usually there's a citywide march down the street to kind of kick off December and such. And they have a big gathering up there, and if nothing else comes up, that might be a good time to partner with honor There's gonna be a lot of people there.
I wasn't thinking of partnering because then the chamber all of a sudden is involved in planning and all, that the chamber is invited, but,
You wanna do this as a standalone?
and December is winter as far as I'm concerned. So I'm thinking fall, like maybe, November, first part of November perhaps. Thoughts?
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Last blowout barbecue.
It's October.
Say it again?
Is October full?
I believe, well, in
We've got some events. that
yeah,
don't
September
really-
20th, thereabouts begins fall.
And so are you thinking that the city council would be, just us up here would be doing the work for this event?
Well, yeah, I'm sure we can get people to kick in, and help, but we need to set a date, we need a venue, and then to come up with, like I remember that thing we had at the fire hall meeting room where Rod made that great pulled pork. You know, I mean, that,
It was one of the League of Oregon Cities
Yeah.
regional meetings, yeah, in February, I think.
He's done it a
no,
bunch of
no,
times.
it was
It's not-
before,
It's
no,
not
it was,
specific.
it was before you.
Oh, okay, he did it earlier this year too, that's what I was,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so,
Well, and I think that the thing we need to come up with too is, there's a lot of different volunteers in the community, and so we need to kind of make sure that we're not excluding some people and not others. So, and
I might suggest that we treat this more as like a community appreciation type event where we're inviting our entire community to come out to celebrate the people who make our community events and programs and services possible. But we perhaps on the volunteer side of it, take nominations. I know we talked a little bit about this at one point. I know I shared something that I had seen Council in Philomath was working on. They've got a committee that takes nominations for like volunteer of the year in different categories. And perhaps as part of more of and the reason I want to generalize it a little bit is because I feel like it gets tough to make sure that we're including everybody that we want to include when we're saying like it's a volunteer appreciation. So which nonprofits do we make sure that we invite? Which ones are doing work here, but maybe not, their offices are housed in Toledo. And so if we make it more like we want the whole community to come out, but as a part of the event, we have sort of an award ceremony for a nominated, judged whatever process of volunteers of the year within a couple of particular categories. We were able to kind of provide a recognition, something to aspire to for people in our community if they want to volunteer more. But at the same time, we don't have to worry about how do we make sure everyone's included if we just do something that is just kind of broadly the whole community.
it's like any event, how do we get the word out to people to come? So we have plenty of time to promote it and without necessarily to extend a personal invitation, but just, and I'm not even thinking awards, just acknowledgement. That's a good launching point for maybe what we can do the next year and the next year. But because we don't really know what we're doing and, well, I don't know what I'm doing, and we just kind of make things up. And so if the word could get out, as well as I do, that the word spreads, that the purpose is to appreciate the volunteers. Please come and help us celebrate them. And we don't need to really call out any one person or any team in particular, but just to appreciate that. And I have a hidden agenda, to be honest with you, and that is to wet the whistle of potential volunteers. So it's not a dead end thing as far as I see.
So one question that I have really quick, because there's been some discussion of date and venue. Were you envisioning, Councilor Burns, and you can tell me either or both, but were you envisioning this being either an indoor or an outdoor event? And I'm asking just because of the sheer number of people that might attend, but if it's in November, outdoors might be a little chilly.
Yeah, I'm envisioning indoor, and
Okay.
so that's what I'm.
So, and I'm gonna say something, and I don't want to minimize, because what you're asking for, Jackie, is important, and I appreciate that, but there's one thing that we said that we were going to do before we planned another event, and that was to test the temperature of our staff. Every event that we have to rely on Public Works, our police, and our administrative staff as well to promote and all of these things. And we were gonna test the temperature there to see how much more they could do. I mean, we ask them for so much all the time already, and we haven't done that.
I'll add to the discussion, Mayor. We did have an opportunity as management to kind of discuss that at one of our recent meetings, and really I appreciate the thought of a November date, because that was really the feedback that I got in that meeting was, we're kind of okay where we're at right now with the events that staff is involved in, but if we were to try to add another one, that's when probably some level of capacity. I had some questions recently asked of, what's the status of the vigil? Had the speakers been confirmed? And as one example, and my response at that time was, well, I really wanted to get the staff through Art, Oysters and Brew and the boat show, and then we can turn our focus to the next event. And so we had that conversation at the most recent management meeting to start the planning for the vigil. But we did have a discussion of, we're kind of at about our level of capacity for events in terms of if you tried to add another one while we're working on another. So November might be a good time to do something like this, especially because the discussion so far in terms of what the expectation of staff would be have been relatively minimal. We're talking about, we reserve some space probably at the fire station. We have an open door event. It's been mentioned a potluck. That was going to be one of my questions, is there anything that would be expected the city to provide, a cake or something like that. But so far, what I'm hearing is that there is not a level of, a high level of expectation from the staff. So I think this is doable.
Our potluck, can we do potlucks anymore? I know, there have always been food safety concerns and such in the past.
And that'll be something for Savani and I to talk about on Monday. This is why I kind of wanted to have the discussion of what might council like to see, and then we can go and have the discussion of is this feasible? So I would be happy to come back to the council after that with a little bit of update based on what I hear tonight.
One just quick thought. I can't remember when it was December or January, but last winter when the city did its city employee appreciation night at the bowling alley, it was kind of neat that there was sort of a built-in activity, and I think that the bowling was free for our team. Mm-hmm. And it might be interesting, something like that, where there's maybe the activity is even a little bit of a draw or a reward itself, and we could just rent out the building for the night or something and make it available for volunteers and their families to come and enjoy it.
What kind of cost is involved in doing that?
I have no idea.
Shauna, do you remember much of the logistics of that one? If not, no worries. We can look it up.
I would have to look up my notes.
Around in a future week.
Yeah.
That's just an option.
Shauna was very much the brains behind that event, so that's why I thought I would ask, but we can certainly look into it. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other suggestions for a venue?
Sure.
You want to come up here?
Would you say your name,
And city of residence.
but not your address?
Mr. Toledo, Oregon. You guys can come to Whimsy. I won't charge you anything.
That would be a game night? Is that what you're thinking of? Is a game night there?
Yeah.
Can you accommodate the town?
At least 50.
It's got 3 rooms.
Harrison?
Mhm.
What would a game night at the library look like?
We have a pretty wide assortment.
I'm just thinking of
They're all-
space, Harry. No.
Mine's bigger than his downstairs. I didn't say that.
We're recording and everything.
So, we
Moving on.
do have a collection of board games, card games, of various levels of involvement. So we've got casual tabletop ones, and I can always get more. And yeah, we've got the downstairs and
We've got some
potentially the upstairs too. I mean, we've got the cabinet and all that, so there are options.
Get an idea of the groups, how many groups we're gonna be contacting or whatever, see what kind of reaction we get from them, bring it back to our work session and talk about it some more.
Why do we have to contact the groups?
We're not contacting groups. It's for the whole community to appreciate all the volunteers wherever they are.
We're gonna get the word out there, and then if we get it info from them, then we'll have a better idea of what type of
Okay.
venue and such.
Approach them for incomers.
Well, it's probably not gonna need more than 3,400 and some odd people.
We've been having a couple of thoughts that we're kicking around the staff table. I'm not quite ready to throw all of them out on the table, but we could potentially reach out to the school district about would the gym or one of their larger facilities be available for this as well. So that was one suggestion from the finance director of my.
Harry suggesting the Elks back there with
The Elks, there you go. So we do have some venues in the community that are other than city owned that might fit as well.
We could do a spaghetti feed at the Elks, something like that.
City.
With the sock hop.
There you go.
So how do we, how about this?
With the sock hop.
We, what if we formed a committee to do this? I don't know how we, I know how we go about forming a committee, but I don't know how many, we want a couple of city councilors, a couple of staff members, volunteers, and a couple of people from the community volunteers maybe, and we could put a committee together and chat about some ideas, do some planning. Once you guys come up with a couple of plans that seem like a good idea, bring it all back to council in the next couple of weeks, and then we could start planning. Would that be acceptable to the council to do something to that
Well,
nature?
it seems like a good start, for where we're at right now.
Yeah.
I think I'll recall from when we were doing the 4th of July planning, the city manager's suggestion that the committee, maybe have a couple of members of the city council, but not enough for a quorum, so that it's just
Right.
So maybe having 2 or 3 members of council so that you're at least getting that council representation there.
Do I have a couple members of council that are interested in being on this committee? Jazzy, do I have another one?
You know you wanna.
Bill, are you interested? Okay,
Yeah.
so we have our,
We let it go.
2 out of 3.
and, so how are we gonna go about seeing if we have any citizen members that would be willing to volunteer for the committee? Do I have anybody out in the audience that would love to be a part of this planning event?
She tucks her chin to her chest.
Madam Mayor, I could put something up on Facebook tomorrow.
That would be great. So let's try to see who we can recruit and get the ball rolling on planning this event. Mr. Brewster has volunteered in the back. Yay! So we have one. All right.
I know another guy who's a member of a volunteer group in the community. I might be able to get some suggestions of
Yeah.
folks that could fill that role as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I think that's gonna get the ball rolling. Thank you. Get us going in a direction. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Toledo Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at your last business meeting, council, there was some discussion about a possible council investment financially in supporting the Chamber of Commerce at a similar level to what has been done for the Toledo History Center and the Aquina Pacific Railroad Historical Society. There was a desire expressed by council to have the chamber come to this meeting and have an open discussion about how that financial support may benefit the chamber, how they might use those funds, kind of how they're currently funded, and any other questions the council may have. So this evening we have the executive director of the chamber, as well as several of their board members, and thank you all for joining us this evening. So I'm happy to introduce Amber and turn it over for council discussion.
I just want to say thank you for even considering getting some sort of financial help with the chamber. We obviously know that we run pretty minimally. So do you guys want me to run through kind of how our financials work, budgeting works, events we do, or do you guys want to ask your questions? I was not present for the last meeting. I did watch the video, but
How are we gonna do this? Because I have another idea that came up toward there that I haven't talked about yet either, that I want to kind of interject as an option, but I think we want to hear from you first.
okay. So, as you all know, the chamber, we run on memberships. At this moment, we have 86 paid memberships. Our annual membership revenue is about $9,570. We get I'm gonna break it down as I tell you what we make, what it kind of goes to. That income goes to our operating costs, kind of our utilities, our insurances, our, those sort of things. And then if there's anything left over, those go towards events, networking events for our members, that sort of thing. We get the TRT grant from the county. That's $30,000, and that's strictly to cover my part-time wage. I work 20 hours a week. I'm the only paid employee of the chamber. We have fundraising. We do some fundraisers. We do the hearts that go up, sweethearts that go on the post everybody loves. Last year that brought in about, I want to say $4,000, give or take. We do seafood and wine, just more to get into a bigger community and remind everybody, hey, Toledo's still here too. We make a little bit on that. I think we made about $2,000 on that. Our fundraising efforts really go to just more events that we put on in Toledo. We do the car show. I have a whole list of events when you guys are ready for that. Things that we work with. That's pretty much what comes into the chamber. For each event, we do ask some sponsorships, but that money is pretty dedicated to the financial impact of it.
So when the hearts are out and the people pay money, does that pay for itself?
Yes,
And
so
then the other one that you mentioned, I forgot what it is.
so we do seafood and wine.
Yeah.
Too, yes.
And does it pay for itself?
So I've been in this position for about 8 months. As of right now, they have, yes. In the past, I don't have real clear financial records of if they did fully pay for themselves or not.
That's kind of what I'm interested in hearing is, where do you run the deficit?
So our goal as a chamber is that we at least just break even. We're not here to make $1 million. We're a nonprofit. We're here to, anything that we make is going right back into the community for, events or supporting other events, summer festival or other things that we might not be organizing, but we are supporting financially. And I do have a breakdown of that too, if you want to see that. Okay, so some of the events that we do, as fundraisers, seafood arts, we do organize the Christmas wreaths that go around town. We purchased those about 20 years ago. They are falling apart. We need to purchase more, but we purchase those, so we store those, we maintain those, the city does help hang those. We do the Christmas tree each year. We make sure the community Christmas tree and the community Christmas party that goes with the lighting of the tree. The umbrella parade that goes with that, which is pretty fun. We hold after hours events. I have not personally held a luncheon yet. We're still working on that. It's just, there's been a lot for a 20-hour position, so. We have the business directional signs around town. They were just taken down because we're revamping them, repainting them, that sort of thing. There's blue backing, yellow signs that just kind of direct. There's some up by Mugley, some by Samaritan, and some up here on, I guess up here on Business 20. We have a community calendar on the Chamber's website that I try to announce all the community events that come across my desk, just to, so everybody in the town has one spot to really go to and get their information. I feel like as the chamber, that's kind of our role, is to connect all of these. The city, the port, the other nonprofits, I feel like we should be kind of that safe haven for them all to come. Let's collaborate, let's work together and make some cool things happen in our town. We do run the trunk or treat too, which is just, we don't make any money on that. JC Market usually does a roundup for us, and we use all that money to buy the candy at JC Market, and then everybody comes and gives candy out to the kids. We have participated in National Night Out, Wooden Boat Show. We did help organize the Art Oyster Brew this year as well. We really want to be out in all of these events. We want some sort of footing, Summer Festival, we did donate $2,500 of our own. Since there wasn't really anything that we could physically do, we were already committed to helping tag with bingo. So we did donate as much as we could to them. Flower baskets, we do help the Toledo Community Foundation with getting their donations, helping purchasing that. We did purchase $900 and donated those to the city, empty flower baskets, because they didn't have enough to line all of Business 20, because we feel like creating that hometown feel, that community feel, is really what actually is going to bring people back to our town and create that, our goal is economic development, supporting small businesses, but if we have a town not worth coming back to, that's going to be really hard. So we really need to create that beauty in this town. We do a car show and swap meet. This year we added sportsman show to that, and a garage. We've started doing garage sale weekends where people can do garage sales, give us their, it's $15, and we put their address on a map. That's kind of a fun thing everybody's loving. Then we do our Thursday market down through the summer, and we do the Thursday market, I think, because we did get the waiver for the field. I think at the end of the day, we make right under $2,000 off that, which pretty much covers any advertising and thing for the next year. So those are the things that we do. I touched on it. We do believe that beautification and economic development are connected. People remember how they feel when they come to a place, and that's important to the chamber. And we've really picked up, I know the city at one point in time did the flower baskets, they did the Christmas tree, they did the wreaths at one point in time in history. As those got let go of, or whatever the reason was, the chamber picked them up, and that's because we believe that matters in our town. That creates pride in our town for everybody. Sorry, I really hate talking about it. Yes. Let's see, what else do I have for you guys? If we were to get the $12,000, an annual city contribution would provide greater stability and allow the chamber to strengthen programs that directly benefit Toledo. The majority of the funding would be directed towards visible community projects and programs, such as the events we already run. I really want to start working on trying to figure out some economic development. I have a pipe dream, but creating kind of a community center that smaller nonprofits or businesses can rent a day or two, where they could come, say karate or kids dance or yoga, where they only have to rent 1 or 2 days a month versus a whole month's worth, whole building just for them, so they don't have as much overhead. And I feel like the space could also be utilized as like a community rental situation to pay for itself, because there's not many smaller community rentals that are affordable for families to run. It's a pipe dream, but I think it touches on bringing people to our main street on a different avenue. Tourism's a big one with the chamber. We are, all of our events are aimed at driving tourism to our town. We, again, beautification, we want people to come here, stay here. I do know Art, Oysters and Brews, just a fun little thing, probably about 30 people stopped at the basket that was just by our booth and just boodled and awed over that one flower basket. And they're just like, we come here because these are beautiful. So that's something to be proud of. So I know you guys talked about seeking other grants. The chamber, we recognize the council's interest in whether the organization pursues other grants and other funding sources. We do continue to seek grant scholarships, memberships, partnerships, donations, event revenue, and other outside funding. However, grant funding is often very competitive, restricted to specific projects, and not guaranteed year to year. Also, I'm only 20 hours a week, and I'm going to be really honest, I'm working about 60, just trying to get the chamber to where we want the chamber to be to help our town. So that's the other thing, is just time and effort that I don't have right now to find other funding. I really want a working relationship with the city. Currently the city does help us with a few small projects. And I'm just bringing it to our attention because I don't want that to go away if we were to accept a stipend of some sort from you guys or whatever this is called. Because just the year that I've been here, almost a year I've been here, the city has helped. They hang the wreaths for us because that's something that we just don't have the capacity to do. They did help us decorate the top of the Christmas tree because it was kind of a very stormy, rainy day. And we were on top of 12-foot ladders trying to decorate it, and we called Plead for help, and they did show up. So, I mean, ultimately, what the chamber would love to see is both the working relationship, and if you guys are able to help us financially, I think that would be the best thing for the chamber and the town for us to work together. And if you guys have questions for me, I think that's all I have for you guys.
Does anybody have any questions for Amber?
Okay. As far as city funding and such on there, it'd be great, but also there's overhead for the chamber because you have a chamber building.
Yes.
You do have to pay for things like a household or whatever else on there, plus the storage of the reefs and such. I believe that chamber is storing those. There's a slight cost for that and maintaining those so that they, look nice.
And then, yes.
So there's a lot of overhead besides just you're paying 20 hours a week on there. So.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the maintaining of these things, like I said, just the reefs alone, they're 20 years old. And those are, that's going to be $15,000 to $20,000 for us to just replace those. And that's, that's something that's not necessarily a direct chamber member benefit, but it does benefit them when our town is decorated and people want to come here and people want to get out of their house to have that hometown feel when they go eat dinner at, Timbers or Cafe 235 or, wherever it is in town that they're deciding to go. So, yes, we do have a lot of overhead. I did not bring a full expense report. We just switched treasurers and we are changing a ton of administrative because the past few years we've paid a lot out in fees and such for payrolls that we really didn't need to. So we're changing a lot right now. And so we just really didn't have a clear picture of X amount of months of this is what we will be spending in coming months. So,
And more of a comment than a question, but the Chamber of Commerce is also a 501c6 organization as opposed to a 501c3 nonprofit, which is an important distinction in the fundraising question. Eligibility for a lot of grants out there is limited to 501c3 organizations by the nature of what 501c3 is meant to be for public service organizations. So just on, even operational funding is the hardest funding to get for nonprofits, whether you're 501c3 or 501c6, 501c4, whatever. Operational funding is almost impossible to get through grants. Because most grant makers want to fund programming. They want to see the actual every dollar goes to a desired community outcome. It's one of the reasons why our museum, leaders in the room have also, I think, struggled as they've shared a few times, and why they have a hard time finding the funding that they need. It's because most of the funding that they actually need is operational. So I just wanted to share that not only, do they face the operational difficulties of getting grants that they're looking for, but also the type of organization, which is different from the other museums that we are talking about today. They are a specific 501c organization type that disqualifies them from most of the nonprofit grants that are out there.
Next, I did touch on, we are pretty well volunteer field for any events we have. I have an amazing board and group of volunteers that just show up and help. And that's huge in our town because those same people have been here for 10, 15, 20 years volunteering, making Toledo run smoothly, so.
Trying to think about how to start this. The city of Toledo has a huge need for public relations service, so to speak. Every department that we have, one of the struggles that they have is when they have events or information that they're trying to get out, we struggle to get it out there. We do have a Facebook page and we have somebody that tries to administer that on top of all of their other duties. My thought process was, instead of just giving the chamber the money, what if, and this is just an idea, what if we entered into an agreement where the chamber would handle maybe not all of our public relations, but a very good part of it?
So, I'll say this nicely.
Go ahead.
I'm here to support my businesses. And at times I might have to question you guys. And at times I might have to question Rich or the city on different things. And I'm not saying that would hinder that, but I would be concerned that my businesses wouldn't feel that they could come to me for that advocacy if I was somewhat as a paid employee of the city, because I feel like that's how that would look. Yes.
So I've thought about this a little bit as well. But I have my take on it is, so let me give some kind of background on this. Amber and I have already met a couple of times and talked about things like this, but so this won't be a surprise to you. So the TRT money that comes from the county to the Chamber of Commerce is because, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is because Toledo has selected the Chamber of Commerce as its designated marketing organization. And so when TRT money is coming from the county to the chamber, it is specifically for the purposes that I think that Mayor Mix is largely looking for. And we perhaps as a city have not properly built, I think, the type of channels to leverage what they are essentially receiving this money for. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I've seen, not since Amber has taken over, but from my time on the chamber board for about a year, I saw a few of the reports that were being provided to the county, what the expectations of those reports were, what the county was ultimately providing the $30,000 a year for was promoting, marketing, tourism, and events in Toledo. So I think that if the goal is to say, hey, we want the services of you guys marketing the events that we're doing, we essentially already have that agreement with you through that TRT contract that is being provided from the county. We're just not doing a good enough job as a city probably to leverage that relationship that should already exist.
And from my standpoint, if you guys get it on my desk, I will push it everywhere, just like any of my businesses, just like any of my nonprofits, because my goal and our goal as the chamber is to just better Toledo, is just to have better events, bring more people in, bring more dollars in, bring families out of their homes. That is our goal, is just to bring it out. So I'm always happy to get the word out if you guys get them to me. I just think you guys would have to decide who's supposed to be getting that to me and when.
I would like to finish, and I promise I'll be
That's fine.
brief, because I know a couple of my colleagues here have some thoughts as well. The intention when I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and that I know I had shared with Amber before and since bringing this up a couple of weeks ago, is I would like to see this as unrestricted. I would like to see this as an unrestricted donation to get into that ability for the Chamber of Commerce to place this operationally where it helps them the most in the area that I think, and please tell me if I'm misconstruing what I think we were kind of agreeing was that funding like this could give Amber the ability to do more of the Chamber of Commerce type of activities that she really wants to do with the Chamber of Commerce, as opposed to what I think a lot of our local small chambers of commerce on the coast tend to default to, which is being more of a tourism bureau, simply because they are so dependent on that TRT money. And I'll go back to that sort of differentiation between restricted and unrestricted funds, that when you're getting a services agreement or you're getting TRT money like you are from the county, if the $30,000 of salary that your chamber director is getting is coming with the caveat that it needs to be put toward marketing and tourism and events, it means that that's what you're going to spend all of your time and your resources on. And so when we give them some money that gives them the flexibility to say, we're also a Chamber of Commerce that has a responsibility to our members, and our members are only contributing $9,000 of our revenue every year, that $12,000 could go a long way toward more of that membership services, business services. And for all the times that we love to talk about the need for revitalizing Main Street, our Chamber of Commerce is probably the easiest, thing for me to say I want to invest in, because they're the most directly, I think, tapped into what is needed to revitalize our Main Street. So I want to give them unrestricted funds that give them the ability to not just do tourism and marketing, but to also do Chamber of Commerce stuff too. That's the rationale that I've been wanting to bring to this all. So.
And I think that we as a chamber have to run a little bit differently as, so to speak, Lincoln City or Newport. They have natural tourism, they have a beach. People flock there on hot days, just to get away from the valley heat, whatever it is. We don't have that. We have to create our tourism. We have to create a reason for them to come here. And 20 hours a week is really hard sometimes to do that. We have other great nonprofits that this whole, my last almost year that I've been in the spot, my only goal is to build relationships with every nonprofit, every city organization, every governing organization in our town, so we can work together and we can build, everything that our town needs and deserves and our citizens deserve, so.
I'd mentioned something about, because of the limited time in your position and, bringing the numbers together, that, and I don't remember the exact words that you used about some of those things didn't necessarily belong there, or
No, it was
explain
more,
that.
Just one example, we were paying about $600 a month for somebody to do a part-time payroll. So when I came in and I realized that, I said, we are not doing that. Now we're paying $64 a month for somebody to do a part-time payroll. So just little things like that we're getting overlooked, that we've really been trying to find comb of going, where can we save money? Where can we cut costs?
So with that being said, what I'd really like to see is if you could compile, what your operating budget is and the different things you have going on, so that I could see the numbers. And we didn't really give you much time to prepare for this.
I kind of knew what you wanted, but I didn't really know what you wanted.
In addition to, you're drinking from the fire hose. By the way, I want you to know that at the Wooden Boat Show, I spent a lot of time there and talking to different people visiting, and I heard so many accolades for you and what you were doing for the chamber. And I'll tell you, it just warmed my heart, because I have really a nice feeling for where we're going together.
Good. Good.
So what do you guys think about that?
I'll just jump in. briefly. So I would echo what everybody's saying about the chamber. It's been awesome to see a breath of fresh air or a new breath of air, and just deep appreciation for what you do. I couldn't agree more in terms of the placemaking value that things like the signs and the hearts and the flower baskets bring. It's hard to think about our town without them. As a kid, I was here before they were there, and I guess I can remember that. But you know, and I think I might have a slightly different thought than Andrew, but I think it gets to the same outcome potentially as what he's describing. I really appreciate what you said, and I made some comments, actually the ones that I corrected in the minutes at our last meeting, that were sort of the same effect, which is like, I don't want to do anything that gets in the way of you guys being a strong voice in this room telling us what we need to do sometimes, because we need that. We actually need that really bad, and so I think that's a super valuable function that the chamber can serve, and be a really powerful voice in our community, which would be great. You know, and so when I was thinking about, I'm like, you give unrestricted funds, then it feels like it's funding the director or something, and then maybe that interferes. So where my mind went was like many of the things that you were very polite in describing the duties that you guys do that are kind of maybe should be construed as city duties potentially. And I feel like I recognize that, you know, that we should maybe have a bigger role in that. So where my mind went was, you know, what if we, and not from like a fund accounting perspective, but the services agreement or something that's like the chamber will continue to work with flower baskets, the holiday decorations, whatever it is, the city remits the gross sum that's suggested here, and then that way it's whatever funding you're currently using to support those programs, you can pull back to support general chamber functions.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful or not, but at least it kind of identifies where in that Venn diagram we neatly overlap.
Yeah.
And in any event, I mean, that's a thought that I would just offer, but I think to the core question of, is this a good investment for the city to make?
Yes.
Whether, yes, like, no matter how we do that, I think that this is an investment that is absolutely appropriate, we should make.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I can agree with that.
I really appreciate what you were saying about the perception of, like, it could just be money that's going to the director. I think we've also heard from the director that she's doing a lot more work than she's getting paid for. So I also don't, I'm not even bothered by that aspect of it, like, because I know that you're paid what you are with the expectation of it being only a part-time job. So even when I was thinking about this $12,000, there was a part of me that looked at just, you're at 30,000, you're getting 12,000 more. If that gets another day of work, that's another day of her kicking butt, doing a great job. It increases the capacity of what the chamber is capable of doing. And I'm not bothered if the chamber and its board sit down and say, the best investment, the thing that will get the most yield for the chamber and for the city is if we give Amber more time to do the job. You know, so I'm not even bothered by that aspect of it.
I'm not either. I'm talking about the dynamic that Amber described with like it's awkward if it feels like you're paying me. I think the same thing happens if by giving them money, we're freeing up funds that they were otherwise using for those items.
Yeah.
And then they have the discretion to use that to
Exactly.
support their
I can
staff.
agree with Aries. Rather than paying.
I mean, my plan is if we get the $12,000, it was not to increase my hours because I'm also a mother for you guys, so.
I think increasing your hours is an excellent outcome.
But I mean, it definitely, especially when we get into events or, I think the other thing that kind of goes very unnoticed is I have a lot of board members that volunteer a lot of their time that they don't get paid for. And, you know, whether that's somehow stipending them when they are on these huge projects for me, just out of the love of their heart because they see Amber's fall apart. You know, things like that, like I would almost rather see the extra funds go to the people that are helping make the magic happen because I'm already being paid in this position.
And I love, and I don't think this was acknowledged at our last meeting, but I think this is a really important thing too. I know we praised the role that you had in Art Oysters and Brews, but I think something that was maybe not mentioned was that you guys paid for the meal stipends or whatever they were for the
Yep.
volunteers. So a big part of our recruitment of volunteers was that any volunteer that signed up got $10 for the Timbers booth for oysters or whatever for food. And so I think that was a really nice draw, and so that was something that they did out of their coffers.
Yeah, we do that with the Wooden Boat Show. We technically run it kind of joint force with the Elks, but we do that for the Job Corps kids as well. Because they're there volunteering, they deserve to eat well, so we also make sure that they eat, so.
Alright, where do we wanna go from here, guys?
I'm good with anything that they're happy with that gives them the capacity they want. I think I'd still advocate for the more unrestricted donation, recognizing that we are looking to approve 2 similar contributions to nonprofits that we don't ask anything of them for.
That's not true.
What do we ask for?
We ask them to come and give us updates every 3 months.
Which can absolutely be part of the expectations here, but
But it's not true that we don't ask anything.
Right, and I would say that in nonprofit grant making, it's completely normal and standard for when making charitable contributions, that there's an expectation of some sort of report of what they did. And,
Yeah, I mean, to me, that like, it's not an important distinction, but they're not advocacy organizations. They're running museums. So it's a little bit of a different vibe.
Sure, I think that's fair.
So we'd like to see the numbers.
Are you suggesting that we just add them to the other 2 groups and categorize it then?
I think of I personally would like to think of this more as like a charitable contribution to a nonprofit that is doing work that we see as valuable, if not essential, to our community. And that's where, as much as I recognize that distinction, right, of the type of organization is different. And I'm good with if the answer is we want to say that there is some sort of agreement associated with it where they are confirming that they will continue to do certain programs that, the city wants.
And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that that's send us your fund accounting and hours, or it's just like, the chamber will continue to assist in these activities, the city will remit this amount of money.
Exactly, it's not limiting the funds to, but it's suggesting that this is why we're doing it.
I think that's.
I can agree
And
with
I
that.
think that one thing from the chamber standpoint, there are things that we've utilized with the city. God bless Public Works for always helping. But there's things that we utilize with the city that it's going to cost us an arm and a leg to do. For example, decorating the top of the Christmas tree. There might be other ways to decorate it. I don't know if any of you have ever decorated a 20 to 30 foot Christmas tree. Once you get so high, it gets very challenging. That was very helpful. I think it ended up being an overtime thing because it was a storm we were trying to do this in. So that's one thing that I think the chamber doesn't want to accept the funds if we're not going to have those help as we need, and it can be planned, it can be worked out together, whether it's a contract or whatever we decide on. We need.
My question
We
is, why
are
would
small
that
group of
change?
volunteers. What?
And
My question, why would that change?
And I'd just like to, I'll add in really quick. You all have heard me say, a number of times over the last year that in so many aspects of what the city does, what we do for one, we have to be willing to do for all, right? And so I mentioned in this regard, the areas that we've been willing and able to help the chamber are some of the examples Amber gave are things that they can't do themselves. And thus they would have to hire a contractor to come and do. They don't have a lift truck, so to get to the top of that tree. So, for example, she mentioned the business directory signs recently. We were able to help them take those down. We'll be happy to help them put them back up. The cleaning, the repainting, those type of things, they need to handle on their own. So there is a delineation, but to Councillor Kaufman's question, there would not be any reason for any change to the relationship in which we provide, logistical support. I don't see the financial and the logistical being tied together. It really just comes down to, if Amber calls and says, "Can you help us out with X?" it really comes down to, do we have the available crew? Do we have the available resources? But no, I don't see any reason why we would say, well, we gave you 12,000, so we're not going to help you with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nah.
Where's my button when I need it? Now.
So as the person who's got like, and it's not to assume that anybody else doesn't, but as somebody who has like nonprofit fundraising and management experience, there's always that kind of pause for me around the idea of these funds being tied to specific activities. And the reason, as much as, yes, these are activities that you plan to continue to do, what if it becomes cost prohibitive to do one of those activities that we put on this agreement, right? That in 2 years, we find that we're in a situation that hanging baskets are so cost or labor intensive that this year, it's just not something that you can do, and now you're in breach of that agreement.
Well, I don't think we were looking at specifics being that specific in the agreement.
I think that's.
It's saying recognizing our appreciation of these programs. Here's the money, continue on.
Yeah, and I'd
It
say,
doesn't
I'd say
say,
that
oh, you
that-
have to.
and I'd say that that sentiment to me sounds more like unrestricted contribution than I think what Council President Chambers is suggesting.
It is, but it's not just handing money. It's like we appreciate what they do for the city. So out of our strategic reserve fund, we have given them money to continue their services.
But I don't know that it's useful to guess at hypotheticals. Like, I don't think that you have plans changing anytime soon. If you do, I think you
Exactly.
could come and talk to us and we would figure out what circumstances you're in and what makes the most sense. But
So we recognize that our participation in certain activities has been lacking. Because we used to do the wreaths, we used to do the flower baskets, we contributed to all of that. And I don't know when it went away.
Yeah.
But it did.
But we did not want to see it go away, so we picked it up.
Cookies are lazy.
So I'm saying that in recognition of these things that here's the money.
And maybe
Not
to,
saying you have to continue these things.
and maybe to, yeah, and I was just offering that just as like why that rings a little bell in the back of my, in the back of my ear. But would it be possible with that agreement, perhaps, Rich, this is a little bit to the two of you, but maybe more to Rich, but for that agreement then to satisfy, I think, perhaps the concerns that Amber has shared, for that agreement to include some sort of language to suggest that the city will provide where, for reasonable services. So I think about when you guys are putting up the hearts, seeing the guys from TAG up there putting the hearts up every year.
it's more and more dangerous every year.
I know, that's kind of
what I was thinking.
We've only
had one accident.
Not Jesus.
But perhaps that is somewhere that, like, if the city does have the resources or the capacity to provide assistance in hooking up the lighted hearts or the baskets or any of the things that they're doing, that it is something that we have it in the language that if the request for support from the city is reasonable, that the city will do what it can to provide, those services. I think if that helps kind of satisfy your concern,
Yeah, that
then we
helps us a
will.
lot, just because TAG is our go-to. When the city can't do it, we use TAG, and, we love these guys, but they are getting a little more grumbly with us when we make them climb ladders, so. Some of them are go-getters, but some of them are like, I'm not going up that ladder this time, so.
Well, and then too, when the accident happens, where does the liability fall, right?
It's a
That-
big bush,
Right,
We just burn them right there.
perfect. But if we have some help on the public works side of things, then now it's the city's insurance, it's.
And we're happy to, like, if we have that agreement, we're happy to be asking ahead of time, make a plan, have a date time, not Christmas tree was a last minute request because, me and another woman were standing on a 12-foot ladder in the rain, and it was getting really dangerous, so, yeah, that was a last minute request, but we, if we make that agreement, we'd love to plan ahead and not make it overtime on a Saturday situation, so.
Well, historically, there has been some events that the city and the chamber and other groups have participated in, and we don't do a lot of them. It's like we used to have a big junk cleanup where people could bring stuff down and put it in a pile, and the city and the chamber would pay to get rid of them. And we go around and get Christmas trees and burn them and do all kinds of stuff for the community to make it acceptable and such. And what I'm thinking is that in the future, if there was another event that the chamber and the city wanted to partner on, we could talk with Rich and he could say, no, you can't use the police cars or whatever.
I can tell you that one right now. No, you cannot use the police cars.
Or whatever.
What can we use the police
I
cars
think the current things.
We need to have it
that
on Thursdays?
Yeah. The current things that the chamber's doing, I think we're covered. But future things, maybe a discussion would come up between the chamber and the city manager.
What do you guys want to do?
Can we put this on as a, do we have to do it tonight, or can we put it on for the?
Jackie had asked
Say
for
add that to.
operating
whatever.
costs from us, do you guys want to see that?
We don't have a requesting council action for tonight, but I wonder if maybe the city manager can put together a services agreement, an RCA. In the meantime, Councilor Burns can get whatever information she needs, and then maybe at our next business meeting, we can consider an RCA.
So
Can I
y'all
ask-
don't care about that? If you don't, I'll drop it.
I think I'm more, like, I would love to, I know that it was shared, like, the reporting, I do think that as long as part of that agreement does include, an annual reporting to council, I'm satisfied with that.
An annual report or
Yeah.
quarterly report?
Are we expecting quarterly reports
Yes,
for
we
the
are.
others?
I thought we're getting.
Because I thought we were getting away from that.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet.
I would hate to make them come in quarterly, they're busy.
That's
guys,
part of
how do we
that,
want
once they're on quarterly, then they would be part of that discussion.
Well-
That we haven't concluded yet.
Yeah, so,
Go ahead. Well, we were talking about changing that so that maybe as an annual report or as requested.
Well, this says right here, it's June 25, 2025 meeting, the city council passed a motion to approve expenditures of $3,000 each to the Toledo History Center. And that's talking about that they would return quarterly. Did we say that we were not going to
we're not
We
doing it
discussed
as
it.
12,000.
a year, but it doesn't say that they're not gonna come to us quarterly and report.
So, Madam Mayor, I would point out that the requirement for the quarterly report was specifically for the last fiscal year. So council has not set what your expectation would be for this year yet.
There's no quarterly.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we never required them to come and report to us quarterly, we required them to come and ask for the $3,000.
Right.
And doing so, they typically report what they've done.
Exactly.
So and just a thought too, like I don't want to use any more of your time than we're already using. So to me, like if you reported annually, that'd be fine. I would also offer though, like if it's useful to have a joint meeting quarterly or to in terms of just more collaboration between the city and the chamber. I think from my perspective, I think it'd be worth the council's time for sure. And,
I think so.
Yeah,
but less of like come with your handout and
Yeah.
here's what we've done for you kind of thing.
yeah, I think that'd be great.
I look at the relationship between Chamber of Commerce and the city. It's like a marriage. You need to have communication. Whether it wouldn't be annually, that would be a horrible marriage.
Even every 3 months.
It would be a horrible marriage. But when you have a question or when the city would have a question, communicate.
And is that expected, like, I mean, me and Rich communicate monthly, all right?
At minimum.
Yeah, at minimum. But is that, like, me and Rich would be communicating, or I would be coming in here and reporting to, like, I mean, communicating with you guys if it's more, like, what are you guys wanting? is what I'm asking.
Yeah, we want to
I
give you
don't care if
another
the
thing to
report's
do.
paper.
Whatever's needed. I mean, if Rich thinks that we need to
I,
share the wealth of the information, then that's what would happen. Otherwise, at least the I won't get that. Anyway,
I think that I would recommend that the agreement have built into it a required annual reporting that happens before we have our budget cycle. And then we, as a practice, build in more intentional check-ins with the chamber where Amber might come quarterly, or we would have our city staff put her on the agenda to come and talk to us about what they're working on, what they need help with. So separating the agreement from the practice, right? The minimum requirement versus what our goal is.
communication.
Yeah.
I think that that's great because the chamber wants a good relationship, and I think that that builds a really big bridge that's been kind of broken in the past. That would be a really great situation for everybody involved, so.
Now, we don't need to have an RCA on the agenda for us to make a motion or make a decision. What I'm wondering is, Rich, do you feel like we have a clear enough picture of what we would want the agreement to look like? That if we were to have a motion that said that we authorize the city manager to draft and enter an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce not to exceed $12,000 based on this conversation, that would be enough. And of course, this is dependent on council being willing to do it.
I don't think I'm okay with that.
Okay.
No.
And I'm gonna say, because that puts all the onus on Rich if something isn't
Yeah.
quite as we expected it to be.
Okay.
Then that
And it
puts
needs
it all
to
on
go
him,
to
and I don't
Sidani.
think that's right.
Okay.
I think I can come back at your September 2nd meeting with an RCA that would approve the expenditure as well as an agreement that Savani and I have put together and run by Amber, and that's 2 weeks. I think we can have that ready for you on September 2nd.
Yeah, we clarify.
I think that's great.
I think it definitely has to go by Saban.
So is this something I'm coming back next, like, I mean, September 2nd, okay. The only reason I ask is we're running gunning right now.
You don't need to come
Okay,
back.
I
You don't-
can't,
you don't-
I might send one of my troops in here.
No, I
if
think
my
what you're
kids
hearing
will-
is like a strong consensus
Okay,
that the city
okay.
should totally enter into this
Yeah.
and
The card
provide
goes
the support.
September 10th,
Yeah,
and
so-
it is a lot of moving pieces that I'm
Yeah.
gonna say right now.
The next step, Amber, it sounds like will be procedural, so I think we'll be good. Yeah.
And
I'll let you know if
the
something comes up.
expectation is that Rich and Savani will work on something, include you in it, make sure that you guys have worked it out so that all we're doing is approving something that you've already negotiated.
Mr. Barry?
I wanted to throw just a little tweak to this. So these are 2019 census numbers. Don't look at the numbers, look at the idea, okay? So in 2019, there was 1,204 jobs in Toledo. 1,204 jobs. 300 people that lived in Toledo worked those jobs. 1,500 people that live in Toledo left Toledo to work other jobs. So they went to Newport, Philomath, Lincoln City. The average household income is $60,000 in Toledo. So those 1,500 people are going out working low-income jobs primarily. 900 people commute to Toledo to work. Okay, why don't those people live in Toledo?
Because they don't want it.
They don't want to.
Well,
The
maybe
chamber-
not.
Well, the chamber is instrumental in the livability of Toledo, making it a place that people want to live. I would almost guarantee that almost a great percentage of those 900 jobs are $100,000 a year jobs. There's probably more children work at the mill. So thinking outside of tourism,
The mill doesn't employ 900 people.
no, but I'm saying that there's a great percentage of those would be those people. How many people work at the mill actually live in Toledo?
I don't know, but I think the mill only has like 400.
450, yeah.
It's a lot of nuances.
But anyways, but yeah, so I'm just saying, there's a lot of money that people work in Toledo, but they don't live in Toledo. So they're taking their money back to the valley, to Newport, Siletz, which is fine, it was for locally, but just thinking of that. But the idea is we always think of the chamber as tourism. But the chamber also works at making livability, the beautiful flower baskets. That's for us in Toledo. I mean, I go out there and I look at them all the time and I'm like, I loved living in Toledo because I have beautiful flower baskets. And we have a good chamber here that builds businesses, that builds community, that builds events, things that I like to have in Toledo. So my thought is building a strong chamber means building a strong livability that people will want to live in Toledo. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else for the chamber tonight, council?
Thank you.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it, all listening, thank you.
Thanks, Amber.
Take a 5-minute break.
Well, I need to run upstairs for my,
Thank you, Andrew.
report. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Rock and roll. You good? All right, we will reconvene the city council meeting. The mayor wasn't feeling well and had a hard break, so I will do my best to steer us through the agenda this evening. We are on to item 7, which is a request for council action. The first item is A, which is approval of the fiscal year 2026-2027 support for the Toledo History Center and the Uinta Pacific Railroad Historical Society. Rich, you want to take us away?
Absolutely, Council President. So thank you very much. As the Council President introduced, the item for consideration is the support for our 2 historical focused organizations here in town. So last year, the council awarded each organization $12,000 in support, with the caveat that was discussed earlier that was to be issued in $3,000 quarterly installments, with the agencies coming and giving updates and requesting the next installment. Recent discussion amongst council at recent meetings has been kind of a desire to shift toward more of a budget line item approach to those agencies. So the RCA that is in your packet this evening, council, would authorize $12,000 to each organization as a lump sum. This year, because the budget book was already assembled, those will be paid out of the Strategic Reserve Fund's Special Purchases line item. That line item was budgeted $50,000, so the $24,000 is budgeted for and would be coming out of that cost center. As we go to prepare the next fiscal year's budget, Mindy and I have had a discussion, and what we're thinking of doing is creating a line item in the Strategic Reserve Fund for community programs. We have a similarly labeled line item in the police department budget, so there's some continuity there. And so we'll take this into consideration for the next fiscal year budget, but we didn't feel it was necessary to create a new line item mid-budget year. But the motion before you this evening is to approve the award of $12,000 to each of those 2 agencies. One of the things that you might want to have as a discussion this evening was alluded to in your previous discussion of what, if any, type of reporting would you like to see from these agencies. The request last year for the quarterly was based on that structure. So would council like to continue to see quarterly? Would you like to see annual, biennial? Or what type of reporting, if any? So I would love to hear that feedback this evening for myself and the agencies. That concludes my report, Council President. I'm open to council discussion.
Yeah, so when I, back however long ago it was, when I pitched the quarterly concept, which I'm very glad we're not going to continue doing, the intention of that was to encourage the museum's management to try and demonstrate to us that they were trying to get funds, that they were having difficulty getting additional funds. So the reporting aspect of it, just for some context, was designed not so much to tell us what they were up to as much as to help us stay up to date on their financial status. Now that we are shifting to doing this once a year, I think that same concept of what I was proposing for the agreement with the Chamber of Commerce, perhaps kind of one annual report is mandatory sort of expectation, with a hope that perhaps on a quarterly basis, semi-annually, our city manager will reach out and find time to put them on the agenda to come and talk to us about the activities that they have going on. I might suggest that if that is happening for the summer, when things are starting to, get a little bit more into the variety of events and programs and opportunities, might be a good time to do it. But I don't want to mandate that. My recommendation would be one annual report is expected prior to the budget cycle, so that we have some context as we look at how the line item on the budget is shaping up.
Any other thoughts on the reporting cadence?
I would just concur that, one report a year, and unless there's something else that comes up extraordinary that you want to bring up to the council and such on there.
Yeah,
Open
be
door
adequate.
invitation.
I was gonna say as a
A minimum.
PRN, if you have the annual, and then as you need it, communicate again.
For one.
I can't
Yeah.
overemphasize that.
Hey, we're gonna be doing, it puts it on the agenda.
Or to come and tell us what we can do to help you, right? So, similarly to the conversation that we just had about the Chamber of Commerce, there might be things that the city could do to support the efforts that you're doing that maybe you don't have the capacity for, or that we might just generally be able to, like, if we have resources that can be of particular help to you, to come and talk to us about that I like to think of these types of contributions as investments into our community, and the more successful you are, the more successful our community is. And sometimes if there are things that our city is able to help you accomplish, I'd like to hear what those are.
Okay,
Sounds good.
we can do that.
I do know the city does have some items historic in the Public Works department down there that might be of interest and such on there. And if we could collaborate, work together to maybe get some things reestablished around that.
What direction you're?
I think some of Brian's childhood toys have become historic.
I'm trying to track here.
We've got the
Do
big
you still have that
bridge
pipe
to
from
nowhere
there?
that they could use, or.
No, that's got plans now.
Which museum?
No, I'm just thinking of the railroad.
All right. Rich, do we do citizen input on this one, on RCA's?
I appreciate the thought, Council President. That is something that we have kind of forgot about recently, so I think it would be good to open for
Ask if anybody-
invitation.
Anybody in the room or online want to comment on this item? Hearing none. Anybody have a motion for further discussion?
I'll just mention really quick for whoever would consider making the motion. You've let us know what your desire is for the reporting, so we'll take that, but there's no need to make any changes to the motion that's in your packet.
I move to approve an expenditure of $12,000 for the Toledo History Center, and to approve an expenditure of $12,000 for the Yaquina Pacific Railroad Historical Society to be paid from the City Council Strategic Reserve Fund in fiscal year 2026-2027.
Second.
And Council President, quick point of order. Brenda asked if she had the opportunity for a question. Would you like to do that before the vote or after?
Question, yeah, absolutely.
It's just
I
logistical.
offered citizen comment.
Which is great. But we do not have an agreement in RCA with the city.
And
We
that,
never have. So
And Brenda,
is that
that-
something you're gonna develop?
I would turn to my council and ask if they feel the need for one. The reason that there was the discussion with the chamber is both because Amber, kind of brought up the very valid point of does there create a conflict of interest perception? And there was also the discussion of they get some operational support from us from time to time. And so in that regard, that an agreement with them makes sense to kind of put into writing those different aspects. For your organizations, the money has really just been this is for your operations. And so that agreement has not been required in the past. Council, is there any desire, see a need for that? Very good.
I do note that we have a citizen comment online.
Ms. George, go ahead.
There she is.
Yep. You should be able to speak now, Ms. George.
Thank you. I do think that there should be an agreement drawn up on both the Railroad Museum and the historical donations. The reason being is that I do believe that the buildings that are the owners do have a lot of influence in the city. And so we want to make sure that we're all aware and there's no conflict of interest when monies are being doled out to certain people in the community. And so all of that should be recorded as such. We don't need people sitting on the planning department or sitting, in the different organizations and also able to vote to get monies approved into their own, into their own finances. And so all this should be done on paper, is my opinion.
All right, thanks, Ms. George. So we have a
Yep.
motion by Councilor Keating, a second by Councilor Kaufman. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Council President, one second. Paul, did Michael Miller, was that a hand as well?
I can't tell because
Okay.
they were popping back.
I didn't see it.
I just wanted to
It's
double check. There was another person that had popped in. Carry on.
So we had a motion by Councilor Keating and a second by Councilor Kaufman to approve the motion listed in item 7A. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Just that I don't think it's necessary, but I also wouldn't be upset if there were a boilerplate agreement, essentially treating this like a grant. Where if the boilerplate agreement were simply to stipulate that we are providing $12,000 and the expectation that we have is an annual report, I think that is an agreement. Those are basic terms of an agreement.
Probably be done on one page.
I think it can be a very, very simple, yeah. So I'd be perfectly happy to amend my motion to say, instead of approve an expenditure, to say, how would I phrase it? Something and execute.
To negotiate and execute.
To negotiate and execute.
If I could, Counselor, I'll offer an amendment to your motion, and you can say so moved. Yeah.
Okay.
So the motion would be to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute agreements with the Toledo History Center and the Uquina Pacific Railroad Historical Society to effectuate the expenditure of $12,000 to each organization to be paid from the City Council Strategic Reserve Fund in fiscal year 2026-2027.
Before I say so amended, do I have consensus?
That would
Okay.
take care of it.
Consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're skipping so amended?
Okay, so amended.
Get a second?
So seconded.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Ms. George, for that comment. It was a good point.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll ask the city recorder to call the roll.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Burns.
You betcha.
Councilor Strom.
Yes.
Councilor Riley.
Yes.
Councilor Kaufman.
Yes.
Councilor Keating.
Yes.
And Council President.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll miss seeing you as often, but
You're so welcome to come and say hi.
I'm sure we'll see you around.
We'll still see them.
I would like to add, we have agreed.
Yes.
That we fully support the Chamber of Commerce and what their request is too.
Yeah.
So,
They've been really
They
helpful
have
with
our
both of
support.
ours, and so.
so there you
Takes a
go.
village.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yep.
Okay, we will move to item 7B, which is loading. A resolution of the Toledo City Council adopting fees for the traffic calming application program.
The council president's favorite topic.
Yeah. Please take us away, Rich.
Thank you, Council President. So as you know, at your recent meeting, you, council adopted an ordinance that enacted a traffic calming ordinance within the city code. That ordinance provides an avenue for members of the community to come forward and request traffic calming measures within their neighborhoods if they meet certain criteria. So you effectuated the code update. This resolution will add a section to the city's fee schedule so that if and when we receive one of those requests and council were to move to approve it, this would enable the city to go ahead and provide billing to the residents of that community to enact the requested measure. Justin Peterson, our contract planner, is on the meeting tonight. If council has any specific questions on this item, I would defer to Justin to answer those. Council President, that concludes my report, and Justin and myself are available for council discussion.
One question on this, but I can hang on to it if there are any other questions. Go, so you have a question?
So it was explained to me before that if you really wanted to have any traffic calming in your neighborhood or on your street, that you put in a request, and you also, as members on the street, fund it. Am I correct?
Justin, did you hear the councilor's question?
Yeah, so the application fee kind of would feed into kind of what you're mentioning, Counselor. So the fee and the actual construction of the quick build could be one individual in the neighborhood fronts it, or potentially a collective of the neighborhood funding it.
I have the same question, so let me try to ask that another way. So what council's being asked to approve right now is the application fee to request the traffic calming device. Separately, the applicants would also be responsible for the cost of the traffic calming device. Is that?
Yes, that is correct. And I guess there's kind of one, unless like the council elected during the budgeting process to have a set funding source for quick builds. But currently how it is structured, it would be funded by the neighborhood.
At what point does that happen in the process? Is it that's after approval, then they're invoiced by the city, or?
Yes, so council would need to approve the request. And then at that point, we, as the city, before we go and put in the equipment, we would need to receive payment from the community for the work and the equipment. Yep.
Yeah, and Rich, just one caveat there: the planning commission. These will actually go to the planning commission. How it was structured.
That's right. Thank you.
And appealed. If they were appealed, it would come to city council. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Justin. Absolutely correct.
So, I mean, in the case of on the street where I live, yeah, in my Fair Lady, but it was pointed in a different direction. If you wanted additional signage, speed limit specifically, then I'd be paying for the pole, cement, and the sign.
Correct.
And if you wanted a sign, so people coming down the street this way and people going up the street this way, even though they passed one down there that said 15 miles an hour, and then they wouldn't be able to. Well, that was 15 miles an hour at that corner. So they're unaware or ignorant to the law. So if you wanted a sign on both sides, and there's an existing sign on that street, probably about 3/4 of the way from the beginning of the street, from 10th to the end where 7th is, there is an existing sign. So all you'd need would be an extension of the same post, if you will, above the existing sign, and you'd have two signs, one being able to be seen
It's gonna
in
be on
both,
the other side,
both
doesn't it?
directions.
Yeah, the issue for what you're describing, Councilor Riley, is the sign needs to be on the side in which the traffic is going. So you got traffic going in both directions on your street. The sign for those on this side is on this side. So if I'm coming in this direction, the sign needs to be on the same side of the street. So we couldn't do it just on the back of the sign on this side. That wouldn't meet traffic code.
So you could add it to an existing sign, just extend the pole and have an additional sign on that same pole. And then on the other side of the street, where it's oncoming.
So if I'm heading north, then the sign needs to be to my right. Now, if there's, say, a light pole or another sign, there is a traffic code, the uniform traffic code that dictates how many signs can be on the same pole, how much information can be on an individual sign, that kind of thing. So, for example, if there's a traffic light, we could potentially just add the speed limit sign to the traffic light standard. But anything we do would have to be in compliance with that uniform traffic code.
That's what the $25 fee checks out.
That's right. That's right.
Questions, thoughts? So besides the $25 fee, then the neighborhood is going to have to pay for the other things that go on there. If they wanted the sidewalk, if they wanted the other calming devices, the speed humps,
Yes.
they would have to pay for all of that.
Yes. That's the way in which the ordinance is worded. As Mr. Peterson mentioned earlier, council as the policy-making body for the city, if you were to say, wow, this request we feel like really would have an impact on a large portion of the city, we want to have the city pay for it, you have that discretion to give us the direction. The way the ordinance is worded at this time, unless you give that direction, the applying neighborhood, the association that applies for it, would be paying for not only the application fee, but the actual equipment and placement as well. Yep.
And so a lot of what this does is it creates a very high bar, right? So
Huge bar.
well, in the sense of it demonstrates that this is something that is of great importance that people are asking for, right? If it's so important that they're willing to do this process, get a consensus of their neighbors, to meet the 10 of their neighbors or half or whatever the two different options for it, depending on the size of the neighborhood, and they're willing to go through this fee process and paying for the costs of doing it, then it's not something that they're putting a burden on the city for things that are not essential or something that they consider to be very important.
And I don't think the question isn't like, are the people asking for it paying for it, or is the city paying for it? Like, the question really is, are the people who are requesting it paying for it, or are all of the residents of Toledo paying for it? And so I think like it makes sense if you're sort of hyper focused on these local issues within neighborhoods, that the people requesting it, are going to benefit from that more than the collective, every resident.
And these are the only things that they could request, that they couldn't request something else.
Well, there's no law against asking for anything. I mean, I think.
It just, the only things that's is.
But I think to Rich's point, there's two tracks. There's things that the city of Toledo thinks are necessary to keep our transportation system safe, and that's deduced through our public works department or city administration. And then there's items that individual neighborhoods would like to have to slow down traffic in their neighborhoods, but aren't identified as those larger city safety priorities. So in the case of the former, they would be city capital works projects. In the case of the latter, they'd be projects that are funded by the people that want.
And the resolution that's before you this evening is really just the fees for the process. The community, the portion of the community that's coming forward to request some type of measure in their community. I use Councilor Riley as an example. His hypothetical, he talked about, hey, we might just need a speed limit sign. Another group might say we need speed bumps on our street. So kind of to the council president's point, what this resolution does is set the fees in order to come in and request some type of measure. But they can request whatever they feel is appropriate. And then the planning commission would review that request. If it's either approved or denied, that could be appealed to the city council. But this is just the process of, hey, I want X type of traffic calming measure in my community. Here's my check to submit that application. In terms of what they can actually request, that's more in the world of the ordinance that was previously passed.
Rich, are the fees sufficient? Do we feel like they're sufficient to generally collect what our costs will be in reviewing these applications and the staff time involved?
I'm gonna turn to Mr. Peterson for that question, since it's really him and the planning division that would review these. Justin, did you hear the council president's question?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The fees were set up to where the initial kind of application allows for the start, basically kind of kicking things off with the preliminary assessment to kind of have the conversation with staff and have staff visit the site. And then that if it looks like things are checking out and they can move forward, then there's the higher application of the 250 to go through that public process and the longer process. So I think it's probably a couple hours of staff, maybe an hour or two for that first part to get out to the site. So in effect, it's probably a little more than $25 for that first part. To answer your question, hopefully that helps some. But I would suspect just a couple staff hours to kind of get that preliminary assessment.
And I would just add to Justin's comment that the $25 fee for this type of application kind of aligns with the event. I shouldn't say kind of. It aligns for the dollar amount for an event application. Sometimes that step review takes a little longer than the $25 cost, but I think keeping the entry level consistent with other preliminary applications, I do agree with Justin that the higher dollar rates for the next level of the process is probably pretty reflective of staff time.
I'm not terribly concerned about the $25 for the first. Realistically, if somebody walks in and says, I have concerns about speeds in my neighborhood, they're probably going to get the free application, which is a conversation. Whoever it is. So that one I'm not as worried about, but I would like to make sure, or maybe just Rich, keep an eye on as we move forward, that if the $300 feels like it's not recovering the staff time that it takes to process these types of requests or applications, like we would probably want to revisit that to make sure that we're doing so.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so in the past, people on Main Street wanted some signs put up to have parking for their business and such on there. Would that be part of this?
That would not, no, because that's more informational. The parking is already in place. So this is really like if the businesses on Main Street were saying, hey, drivers are going way too fast, they're driving dangerously, we want speed bumps or some type of measure to slow traffic down, that's what this ordinance applies to. Signage of, hey, parking's available or that kind of thing, that's not a traffic calming measure.
Okay, well, just that some of the businesses wanted to have their curb painted green, and so that you could only be there for 15 minutes, so we're changing the parking and such on there, and those kind of items.
Yeah, and those types of requests are always welcome, and we'll review them as they're received, but that would not fall under this specific fee structure. Yep.
There was also one here about the street grade couldn't be more than 8%.
Yeah, that's in terms of like adding a speed bump, something like that. It really has to do with it has to be something that's passable for emergency vehicles. So the 8% grade is really a safety measure for vehicles that would be affected by whatever is put in place. So it'd be enough to hopefully slow traffic but not cause damage.
Any other thoughts, questions from council? We will open it up for citizen comment. Anybody in the room or online like to comment? We've got Barry coming up.
Yeah. I just had one quick question for the construction cost. So is it like permits, all that kind of stuff? Who do they pay everything? And then who determines who does it? So if all of a sudden a community wants to have a sidewalk raising party, can they do it themselves, or does it have to be a licensed contractor, permitted? What are the standards for construction?
When you say contract or like a sidewalk raising, are you talking about putting in a new sidewalk?
If they want a sidewalk or they want to put bumps out or whatever. Where does the construction aspects of it come into play? Because I didn't hear labor anywhere. I heard materials and stuff.
Yeah, so if a new sidewalk is part of the request, that sidewalk would have to be built to city standard, and we would have to hire an outside company to build that sidewalk for us. That's not something that, Brian's crew doesn't go out and build new sidewalk, right? So the labor, the materials, all of that would be factored into the cost that we get from that contractor that we hire.
Okay, so you would get a bid, then you would tell that neighborhood, this is how much it's going to cost you if you want to do this.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
So if you want another case scenario, that's true. If you wanted to widen your driveway, because the majority of driveways in Toledo are set for 1930 standards. And it's difficult to pull in there unless you have a Volkswagen. Which I do, but my wife parks cars. So you'd have to put in a request, and the city would have to do what you're requesting?
No, so the traffic calming ordinance is very specifically to devices that would be placed on a city street, either adjacent to it as a sign or actually on the roadway itself. So if you were wanting to expand your private driveway, there is a permit process and you apply for the permit to do that work. The city would review it and issue the permit, but that would be entirely one individual homeowner. In your case, Counselor, as if you were the example, you would come into the planning department. Arlene or Justin would be able to help you through the application process, and you would hire your own contractor or whoever was doing that work. But that doesn't relate to the traffic calming. That's just a private action.
There's no more council comment. We would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1617, a resolution of the Toledo City Council adopting fees for the traffic calming application program.
Second.
It was moved by Councilor Keating and seconded by Councilor Riley to approve resolution 1617. Any discussion on the motion? Just that I'm a big fan of Learner and Blow and anything I can do for the street where you live. So.
Thanks.
All right. Will the recorder please call the roll?
You, Council President. Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Strom?
No.
Councilor Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilor Riley?
Yes.
Councilor Keating?
Yes.
Council President Chambers?
Yes.
Council President passes 5-4, 1 against.
All right. Thank you. We'll move to item 7C, which is OLCC Local Government Recommendation Special Event License for the Rusty Truck Brewing.
Thank you, Council President. So we have received a request from Rusty Truck Brewing to be able to sell alcoholic beverages at the upcoming Toledo Swap Meet and Sportsman Show that is scheduled to take place on Saturday, September 5th, 2026. The application is in the council packet along with the map that was provided by the applicant. This is very similar to some of the previous applications that you've approved for the Renaissance Fair and some of the other events that have taken place in the city this year. I did note in the RCA, we received this on Thursday of last week, and Mr. Johnson was out Thursday and Friday, so we had published the agenda on Wednesday. So I noted in the RCA, since we had received it on Thursday, late in the day, didn't see it until Friday. Chief Pace was out on Friday, so we did not, at the time I added this to the agenda, had not had a chance to have it completed by review by police at the time. Chief did get back to me on Monday that he gave a thumbs up to the application, so that step has been completed and presented to council for your consideration this evening. We went ahead and added it after the agenda was published, really just because this is your last business meeting before September 5th. Council President, that concludes my presentation. I'm available. Any questions for discussion?
It's just to confirm that when it says beer garden will be set up, that means the beer garden will be contained with some sort of like fencing, some sort of actual barrier, as opposed to we're just going to paint a couple lines on that. Like, setup is a very vague term.
Paul, did you get any information in your conversation with them to that effect? This company, while it's new to this event, they are working with Charlie Seifert and with Amber, and I know they are very adamant about what happens and what can't happen in their events. So I would expect that they are going to take the guidance from them to do that type of thing.
Okay. And we can certainly, convey as well that that is an expectation.
Yeah, because I think, we have you mentioned Charlie and Amber. So when we have Art, Oysters, and Brews, that's a space that minors are able to go into, but alcohol is meant to stay contained within that space. Here, I'm just noting that they identify that no minors will be permitted to enter the particular space of the beer garden. So I'm guessing that would probably mean something a little bit more complicated than what we've had at like Art, Oysters, and Brews, where we have somebody checking IDs at that entry point. And
that's something I can also follow up with them to make sure of too, if that was their intent.
I trust it. I'm not trying to hold it up. I'm just asking.
Yes. Oh, it's good. Good question.
Any other questions or comments on this one? We'll get to citizen comment. Just I want to make sure that we're on up here. Okay. Any residents in the chambers or online that would like to?
I just confirmed with Amber that they will have a fence.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
There you go, Paul.
I assume the microphone picked that up, but just in case, Mr. Brewster confirmed with Amber Brown from the chamber, they will have fencing.
Awesome.
OLCC.
I move to approve the OLCC Local Government Recommendation Special Event License for Rusty Truck Brewing for the sale of alcoholic beverages at the Toledo Swap Meet and Sportsman Show on September 5th, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Keating and seconded by Councilor Kaufman to approve the motion contained in item 7C. Any discussion on the motion? All right, we'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
I thought we were.
Thank you, Council President. Council Burns?
We did
Yes.
both. We did.
That's right.
Council Burns?
Randy.
She was yes.
Thank you. Councilor Strom?
Yes.
Councilor Riley?
Yes.
Councilor Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilor Keating?
Yes.
Council President Chambers?
Yes. Okay. That brings us to item 8 on our agenda, which are our mini staff reports. I know that we've got a number of department directors here with us this evening, and there are reports in the packet. I would definitely offer to anybody that has any interest in describing the items in the reports, or if council has any questions about the items in the reports.
Do any of the department heads have anything they'd like to call out or add on the reports that are in the packets? Very good.
Represents a lot of work, and it's very appreciated.
Council, any questions for the staff this evening? All right, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council President, my apologies. I always forget that on the meetings that the department heads are here, that the city manager's report falls under. We didn't list it, but it would fall under staff report. I have just.
You don't have anything to add. Right?
Sorry. I have. Thank you. I have just a couple of items for council this evening, and I will be quick. I'm sorry, Councilor Burns.
For Public Works, so on Saturday, the skate park is reserved for a skateboard event for the Homey House. I'm wondering, does Public Works clean it up prior to an event being held?
Does Public Works do what?
Would they clean up the skate park prior to the event being held?
We can do that. Yeah. So the event's on Saturday, you said, Councilor? Brian, do any of our parks guys usually work on Friday?
No.
Okay.
It'll have to take place tomorrow.
Yeah, so our two parks guys, our Public Works crew works a 4:10 schedule. So we'll get that addressed tomorrow, but there'll be another day before the event.
So did something stand out, like there's an issue with it currently?
It was just when we had a meeting about our event, the Homey House, they said it needs to be cleaned up, and I don't know any more than that. I'll clean it up myself. So is this normal to ask if a park is reserved to ask to have it cleaned?
No, normally the parks crew is supposed to check the parks and clean the parks of litter and things along those lines.
Okay.
That's why I was asking if there's an issue with it.
Oh, no, okay.
So to your question, Councilor, it is a normal city process that we would try to address a park before an event. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Were there any other questions for the staff or the council? Okay. So just a couple of quick items. Paula attended a really good training earlier this week, and one of the things that was discussed in that presentation is that for items that are not of significant import, so your ordinances, appointments of a new counselor, that type of thing, that a roll call vote is not necessarily required so long as the recording and the minutes reflect the outcome of the vote. So one of the things, and we didn't want to spring it on you tonight, but one of the things that we have talked about this week, possibly trying in the future, is doing just an oral, all in favor say aye, right? Any opposed say nay. And then at the end of the vote, Mr. Johnson would simply state, and I'm just using this as an example, that Mayor Mix, Council President Chambers, and Councilors Keating and Burns were in favor. Councilor Strom, Riley, and Kaufman were opposed, just to kind of give the outcome. But we thought it might save a little bit of process and procedure time by shifting to an oral vote rather than a roll call.
We did intentionally move away from that last year.
Okay.
So until last year, we were doing show of hands. All in favor say aye. We had received guidance. I cannot remember when or how it came up, but we had received guidance basically saying that for the sake of clarity, I think it started maybe with something at the LOC, but we had been advised that for the sake of clarity, doing the roll call vote ensures greater certainty.
And I think that's the point that Paul was making about at the end of the vote, you would simply state the outcome beyond just, 5-2, right? But Paul, do you have something you want to add there?
Councilor Keating, thank you for mentioning that. There was some guidance by OGEC that suggested their preference was a roll call vote because those listening on the phone or watching and those in the audience would also be able to know clearly who voted for what, and that was the important part of it more than anything, because either way it has to be recorded in the minutes as such who did what. So it was just a suggestion. It isn't anything that we have to switch to. It was just an idea. If you wish to give us direction that you want to stay that way, I'd be more than happy to continue calling about that.
Would council have any opposition to us giving it a try and see if it works, and we can always go back later? Yeah.
The only real difficulty I have with roll call is oftentimes I can't hear it, and I'm afraid that if I can't hear it, people on the video and the people in the audience might not be able to hear it. So that's why I will say a name again to ensure what was said.
Oh, in regards to council's response,
Yeah, yes.
try not to be so sus.
I'm personally a fan of doing anything I can to avoid ever getting anywhere close to in trouble with OGA. If only because the fees that they impose are much greater than any compensation our city councilors will ever receive. No, I think either is fine, as long as it's being recorded in a way that that reflects what happens.
I don't know, I think the show of hands or whatever is on regular business, but unless somebody requests it.
And that's a good point, Councilor Strom. Any councilor could request, hey, I'd like a roll call vote on this item. So that option is still available. Very good. Okay, just two other quick.
Take a roll call.
Should we take a roll call?
Let's test it out right now.
That was good. Two other quick items for council. Obviously, election season coming up in November. There is a requirement for elected officials, whether you're elected newly or re-elected. There is a requirement that you complete a open public meetings training each term. And so for those of you, even incumbents who are re-elected, you'll want to do that, sometime after the election. We could arrange for LOC or some other training organization to come to Toledo and do that. But I also just wanted to share with the council that the League of Oregon Cities is offering what they refer to as the Elected Essentials Workshop. It covers a series of topics, including that public meetings requirement. They're holding one in each of the 12 regions in the state, and then they're also doing a virtual catch-all if you can't get to any of the ones in person. So I'll send out an email to council with the dates and locations if you're interested in attending one of those. It is an all-day event from 8 to 4:45 with lunch provided. So if you can't make one of these events, or you feel like I've been doing this long enough, I don't need the whole thing, I'll just do the public meetings training, we can make arrangements for that. But I'll send out an email with this information. You can let me know if you'd like us to register you for one of them. The city has received a couple of appeals of water and wastewater utility accounts. And I'm going to give a little background without identifying the individuals. But in 2018, council approved resolution number 1409, which adopted a leak adjustment policy for water and wastewater utility accounts. And it added a little bit of framework to section 1312 of the Toledo Municipal Code that addresses our utility system. What this resolution did was authorize staff, when a utility account customer comes to the city and there's been an identified leak, it gives the staff the ability to issue, basically go back and look at the history. It can identify based on usage kind of when the leak started. And it gives the staff the ability to go back to what the average use was before the leak, look at the difference between that level and the average consumption during the leak, and then reduce the bill for the leak period by half of that overage. That sounds a little complicated. So if you were using on average 6,000 gallons prior to the leak, and you used 12,000 while you had the leak, then that delta is 6,000. So we as staff administratively can say we will reduce your bill down by 3,000 additional units. The two individuals who have come forward to the city to, they've already been awarded that half that we have the authority under this resolution. The reason that they're asking for additional consideration is that their leaks took place throughout the course of the winter average period. So if they were, to use that same hypothetical, if they averaged 6,000 before their leak, they got billed for 12,000 during the winter average period, even by reducing it down by the half of the overage that we have the ability to, for the remaining 8 months of the year, they're being billed sewer rate at 9,000 gallons. We as staff don't administratively have any additional authority to give them anything more. So the next step would be that they would come to the city council and present their appeal to you as a body. So I wanted to let you all know we've had these two appeals. One of them, they were both extended duration leaks. One of them shared with us that they had real difficulty finding the leak. That's why theirs went on for an extended period. The other, it was a situation with a landlord, and they've shared with us that they got some conflicting information from their tenant that led them to think that the issue either had been resolved or that, made it difficult to try to address. So wanting to let you know that I, as the city manager, will be informing them. We have given you everything we administratively can. Your next step is to bring this to city council.
So Rich, is that the next step, like stipulated in the ordinance, or is that just that your appeal was to represent a democracy if you don't like what the ordinance says?
It is actually included in the resolution. If no resolution is forthcoming from the city manager, applicant may request appeal to the city council. Okay. So it's a little of both.
Is the city council appeal restricted to the provisions in the ordinance?
It is not. The city manager will refer the exclusion to the city council at a regularly scheduled meeting. The Toledo City Council's direction on the issue shall be final. Okay. So the city council has the authority to do whatever you want to do. I wanted to let you know ahead of time that this may be coming, and it may be something that I'll provide copies of this resolution to the council members. You may want to have a greater discussion about, because this resolution is 8 years old. It will be up to you whether you want to have any discussion about any changes or updates to the resolution itself. I'll leave that all up to you.
Just one thing that I would find helpful before they come or when they come is if you guys can do the calculation of what it would have been if
yes.
it looked more narrowly at the time of the leak.
And I'm pretty sure when we got the appeals, Mindy ran all of that ahead of time because that's how to determine what we could give them. So yes, if and when they come, we'll be happy to provide that info to council. You bet.
This is the first I've heard of, an appeal like this. Do we have a history of appeals like this and how council has handled them? Or is this a fairly new thing for us to figure out?
Yeah. I think the best answer that I have is these are the first ones that I've had in the almost year that I've been here. We could probably do a little bit of digging and see if there's been another one since this resolution was passed.
Yeah, you remember any?
I don't think,
As our historian?
I don't remember any coming to us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there haven't been some that happened during the summer when it doesn't set the rate for the rest of the year. And I can see why that's being appealed.
I think for the most part, Mindy was just saying in the process that she did with these two, it's a very seldomly used item. I think for the most part, most residents would be happy with the half. I think the issue that we ran into with these two is it went through that winter average period. So yeah, I think it's a pretty limited process, Council President. Councilor Riley?
It might not have come to city council or the city, but I've heard several leaks. I've heard of several leaks, and it was rather extensive cost.
Yeah.
Who leaked that information to you? I feel like when you work in the hardware store, you know just about everybody who has
The individual that it happened.
Well,
just there.
maybe they don't know that there's a way of getting it looked at
That's what I
and decreased.
passed on. I said, you need to go to city council and say, by the way, and then state your case.
And I'd like to take an opportunity in this discussion to really give a plug for my staff because they do a really good job. That wasn't even intended, but as soon as you did that, I was like, the finance staff does a really good job of taking a look at the accounts as the bills are created and look for those where, whoa, that's a disproportionate amount used. One of the individuals that is one of the two potential appellants, the reason that they knew that they were getting bad information from their tenant was that Kayla Paul was pinging her for a couple months at a time saying, hey, you got a leak, your usage is really high. So I just wanted to give a credit to the staff for being very proactive. When we see these, we try to advise the residents because it can be very difficult to know you have a leak. Absolutely. Any other questions on that one tonight, council? All right. The only other item I want to mention is, and I love saying it this way, it has somehow already and only a year for me coming up in a couple of weeks. Councilor Kaufman knows where I'm going with this. It's coming up on time to do the city council, the city manager's evaluation.
Let's tell the mayor's here.
Well, we're not doing it tonight. I want to let you know ahead of time.
It's a process.
No, thank you. I wanted to let council know. What's that? We've had, since I started, we've had a couple of councilors who have resigned from the council. So we have some for whom this will be a brand new process. Our HR director is new to the public sector. This would be her first city manager evaluation. So I'm looking at a couple of potential either facilitators of the process itself, or at least, LOC, for example, they did a session in Portland last year about this process. So I'm looking for either a facilitator for the whole process or somebody that can at least come in and, tell the council and Shauna, here's how you do this, and then leave it to you. So what I wanted to put on the council's radar is that on September 16th, which would be your third week of the month meeting, I will actually be absent that evening. I'm attending a concert with my brother. And so knowing that was a meeting that I was going to be absent for seemed like a great opportunity to have an executive session of the council to conduct this process. So what I mentioned, what's that?
Bring your brother here.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. No, we will be in Southern California for a Red Clay Strays concert that night. But I wanted to mention to the council that what I'm recommending for September is that September 16th strictly be an executive session for you to conduct this process. And then on September 23rd, that would have been, your work session meeting, depending on if there was business that we would have ordinarily done on the 16th, that we possibly do either a work session and or a special meeting on the 23rd to get done any business that we need to do. So I will give you an update on the 2nd of whether we either have hired a facilitator or a trainer, just so you know what to expect. And then that's the goal, that September 16th would be the evening that you go through that process. Any questions on that this evening?
I look forward to Shauna's input.
I would.
The process in the past sucks.
Well, I definitely don't want it to be a sucky process for you or for me. So.
The process that we've had, it asks so many questions that we have no idea about. Unless we're picking the staff's brain, and why are we gonna?
Oh, that's really good feedback for me. Thank you.
It's like
I'll mention that to the folks that I'm talking to about taking this on. That's really good.
How you interact with the staff every day. Why is that on my evaluation to do for you?
I'm a tyrannical martinet behind the scenes, let me tell you.
I mean, That's why the level of participation on my part is
I
like,
noticed that nobody
Real low.
disagreed.
Nobody argued, right? Yeah.
most the answers are,
But I do.
Only one laughed.
Yeah, I do appreciate that feedback, Counselor Kaufman. That'll be good for me to convey to them of like, really try to keep this focused on what the
Stuff that-
council's knowledge would be.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Valid.
Absolutely.
I'd say 3/4 of the stuff didn't apply to us. It was like, I don't know.
Were they
I don't know.
Were they facilitated or was it just?
No.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
makes sense.
questionnaire thing and it's all these,
It's a template.
you have to pass out the old template just for some of these people. So
It sounds like I should burn the old template, is what I'm hearing from you.
pass it out, share it as a joke, then burn it.
Fair enough.
Start over.
Fair enough.
Yeah, or even, I mean, it's, like
It's,
Jensen Service or Jensen Strategies or somebody like that, even just zooming in for the evening might be an interesting opportunity to facilitate it or.
that's what
Yeah.
I mean. It's like
Yeah.
anything.
I'm looking for somebody that can facilitate the process and not be a big bite out of the budget. So I'm kind of trying to balance those two
Yes.
priorities.
Yes, sir. That-
Yeah.
That's smart.
How to refurb the process.
Yeah.
Council President, that's all I have for the city manager's report this evening.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 9, the issue tracker and future agenda items. Do any councilors have anything they'd like to discuss with this item?
And I would just like to mention to the council, my apologies. We haven't had a chance to give this either of these a fine-tuned update in the last few weeks. So I do anticipate at your next meeting, you'll have a little bit of an update on these documents. But if there's any items or issues the council would like to add this evening, I'm sure open to them.
The only one I was going to mention, which I'll just keep mentioning until I don't need to mention them anymore, but the item that we discussed in terms of our code enforcement opportunities, I'm curious if we're either in motion on code enforcement or if there's anything else you need from us. I would want to carve out the time on the agenda to make sure you have what you need.
I appreciate that. I actually have it on my list for Savani and I to discuss on Monday. So to your point, we're kind of trying to put together a proposed guideline for code enforcement that aligns with our code as Savani recently presented to council, but that starts to implement some of those accelerated actions. So it is in process, and that is something I will get on the issue tracker so that you're aware. But yes, we are working on it. I will try to give an update at your next meeting after we have a chance to chat in our next weekly meeting.
And have we had want to recognize a visitor in our audience, which is the candidate for our county commission, just to make this a little bit less awkward. But have we also invited our county commissioners to join us for a meeting? So it's to an issue with dilapidated properties in Toledo. One of which, on your way out of town tonight, take a look at the A-frame building that's across from the hardware store, which is a county-owned property. And so we've been trying to look not just for that property, but for properties that are in that type of condition, what tools we have to try to help either get the issues abated or mitigated or repaired or scraped to the ground. So when we had that discussion at a previous council meeting, we also talked about inviting our current county commissioners to come and have a discussion with us about the condition of that specific property.
We have not extended that invitation yet, Council President, and the reason for that is we have two issues code enforcement related with county properties. As you know, we have the ones that they own that just haven't had attention recently, like the A-frame. And we also have the ones where, as I've shared with council, there were the liens that county had that met their maturity date. And our understanding of the state law is that the county is required to take possession and deed to those properties. And so we wanted to try to get to a point of understanding with the county on those to have a better understanding of what we need to address with the commissioners. I'm happy to report we're not, I wouldn't even say we're quite in the red zone yet, to butcher the sports analogy, but we have had some positive response to our recent communication with the county COUNSEL, County Council, on our interpretation of that law and trying to kind of work with them collaboratively to get through that process. So I think we're getting close to a point where we can say, okay, we're at a comfort point with that. Let's focus on these, because what we really wanted to know is, do we need to address those with the CIL council as well? So I think we're very close to being able to extend those invitations.
Okay.
Just wanted to get some clarity there first.
Just speaking individually with my own, this isn't a citizen comment item, Ms. Jordan. Speaking from my own perspective, I wouldn't want us to wait on using the enforcement tools that we have for that other discussion to play out.
Correct.
Because I don't think that's going to be fast. Nothing's going to be fast for a little while, and then who knows then. So so I think, you know, parallel tracks great, but I don't want to wait. I don't mind waiting to invite them to come here, but let's use the tools that we have to try to get progress on the building.
And
I think of them as two intertwined but separate items, right?
Yes.
Which is, I think, what Council President Chambers is suggesting here, that there's nothing to stop us really from pursuing a better understanding and a definition of the tools that are available to us and what code enforcement can look like, because it is going to take, both of these things are going to take time. So we can advance on both of them simultaneously.
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely agree with that. I wanted to take, you know, a week basically to try to see if we got a response from County SEL, just to know whether when we get the commissioners here, do we need to bring them to the A-frame and to Birch Street? Or are we comfortable saying, okay, let's focus on the properties that don't fall under category 2, right? So I think we're at a point there where we can keep those on a staff track. We seem to be going in the right direction. So I think in by the end of the week, I think we can probably get the invitation to the commissioners, get their availability, and try to get that meeting, and we can more focus on the buildings like the A-frame in that discussion. You're absolutely correct. Parallel tracks that can both be addressed. I wanted to get a little understanding of how much do we need to throw at the commissioners in that conversation. So.
Yeah, well, and kind of 3 tracks. You've got the enforcement actions, an invitation to join us for a meeting, a separate issue about the county taking possession of
great point.
Tax properties.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a quiet time right now.
For next week's meeting, I just want to confirm that we as city council are meeting, because we as URA are doing a work session next week.
That is correct. Yep, and the agenda that we publish on Friday will reflect special meeting of the URA as a work session. Yeah, yes, URA. Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other issue tracker items for folks? No? Okay, then we'll move on to council comments. We'll go left to right. How about Councilor Kaufman?
Nothing from me.
Nothing, Councilor Riley? Councilor Strong?
I would just suggest that if there's any time that we could set aside or whatever to do and we did some tours one time, and it really helped us get better understanding of some of the places that we weren't supposed to sneak into. So
are you talking like city facilities, Councilor?
Yes, city facilities. And, you know, it's like we were talking about the new building up there and such. I haven't been in it in a year.
Sure.
So I don't know about the rest of you.
I've never been in there.
Okay.
Well, I was in there. I used to deposit checks there.
Yeah, but something like that, you know, if we could just see inside. And I know I was up, I don't know if I was supposed to, but I went up to the proposed water tower and kind of drove around it, and I did see there's water inside of it, so and maybe collaborate with the port and see their facility down there. So tours really help get a good understanding about stuff.
Sure. I think you guys did a council tour right before I was elected.
Yes, we did, and it was very helpful. We went up there and we were gonna catch fish, but he said no.
Councilor Keating.
So I'm gonna keep this brief, because I think we all know that I could talk for like a half an hour on just about anything. It's Jackie. Wow, all right. Maybe I should keep this really brief. So I want to just kind of provide a little bit more context to why I was the no vote on the public safety building discussion that we had last week, because there are some things that I didn't quite want to share in that particular moment until I had thought about them a little bit more. Where I felt a lot of discomfort and still feel a lot of discomfort around kind of the change of direction, particularly around the use of that building, comes from, we spent a lot of money, time, and resources, including months of deliberation of city council, working with architects, having a community engagement process where we got feedback on how we should use the building. We shared proposed plans for the use of that building. I don't particularly feel super about the idea of changing the plans for the use of that building so easily as I feel like we had started to do in some of these recent conversations, particularly last week, where I think that I expressed to our city manager some frustration the next morning when I woke up and saw the draft post on, or I saw the post on Facebook with the draft minutes that said definitively that City Council chambers is absolutely not going up to that building, right? When I kind of raised that I was concerned that we had definitively said that, and then got pushback saying, no, we actually haven't done that. Well, by the next day, the remembrance of that meeting was we definitively said it's not going to be up there. So I want to emphasize one thing that I feel like I started to get to last week, and I maybe didn't make this point clearly enough. The feedback we got from Representative Gomberg did not say that the plan that we submitted was the reason we didn't get funded. It was that we changed the use of that building after we had asked for the funding. That we had flip-flopped within the funding term, not that there was any problem with what we were asking to use the money for. So it is fully my understanding, even from my conversations with Representative Gomberg, when he gave me this news, that if we went with the exact same plan that we had a year ago, that had that $50,000 that we had already spent, the months of community engagement and deliberations, that we are very likely to get that approved, especially when we start looking at the fact that the EOC is something that we could maybe retrofit into the plans that we had drafted a year ago with all of that help, with all of that community feedback. So I feel like there's a bit of a betrayal of that process to some extent, or a forgetting of that process, that we are sort of dismissing the work, the engagement. I think that is something that becomes lost when we simply say that, hey, we have an opportunity to walk back something that a few people don't feel as comfortable with. When I really appreciate the symbolism aspect of City Hall on Main Street. I really do. I really appreciate that people feel strongly about this building and its current use and its history. But those arguments were not lacking when we made those decisions last year. They're not new issues with the decisions that we made last year. So I'm more concerned about the process, and I think that we have dismissed things that we had considered without actually considering them again, without discussing them comprehensively again. And I also want to raise that I think that there is a valid concern that I know I've shared myself, that Councilor Chambers has raised, of not wanting City Hall to be the next, vacant on Main Street. I think that's a phase 2 problem, right? If phase 1, if we look at the idea of moving, whether it's City Hall or some of the functions of this building up into that new building, it's a failure on our part if we just say, cool, now that we've done that, let's make this the next vacant on Main Street. I don't know that we generate a whole lot of economic benefit to Main Street by this being here. I don't know that we have enough foot traffic that would no longer participate in our economy if we moved 2 blocks up the hill. I don't know that people are going to not go to Timbers for lunch after they pay their water bill, and instead go, get a Lunchables at Thriftway. I don't know that moving City Hall 2 blocks up the hill is going to have a truly negative effect on our Main Street economy. And I think that we were to have this building as something of a blank slate, which we know that it's not because it has a ton of problems in it that have been identified by staff, which I should also mention, staff was involved in that process that we went through last year because we were looking at how office space and facilities for our staff were going to be implemented in that new building if we were to move City Hall functionality in there. And so we are dismissing even those components of problems that we now have solutions for when we looked at those plans. We could address a lot of the problems with this building, whether it's the DEQ concern, and I know we can say it only applies to a very small percentage and it's just the sometimes readings, but you know what? We could get this building designated as a historic site to get grant funding that would give us, restoration funds. We could get grants related to environmental cleanup or whatever work needs to go into getting that DEQ lien lifted. We can look at ways that we can retrofit this. If we want to think about even just the community benefit, we're paying $12,000, to our history museum. If this building, talk about foot traffic, economic benefits, et cetera, we could move our history museum in here, give them free rent, and instead of $12,000 a year, which I know they are currently paying in rent, we're giving them $12,000 of just use of our facility. There are lots of things that if we just sat down and thought about what is phase 2, this building doesn't have to be that vacant on Main Street. Anyway, I'm just frustrated because, and I didn't feel comfortable with the no because I didn't feel comfortable with the idea of the direction that conversation went quickly, because it did feel definitive and it felt like it was throwing away a lot of process and a lot of community input and staff input and time and money and other resources. So again, I believe that whatever we do with that building is going to be an enormous benefit to our community. And I will advocate for anything that we decide to do as a council. I stand by that. But I also think that we're going to be spending millions of taxpayer dollars on that building in one way or another. I want to use that building as much as we possibly can for as many solutions for this community as we absolutely possibly can. What we are shifting toward now is just the police department and a space that we might use occasionally. So I'll say, I'm with you guys, whatever we decide, but I wanted to digest a little bit more of kind of where that frustration was last week, and thank you for the time. On that note, completely separate, whatever we do with that building, Governor Kotek's office issued a release earlier this month about the RIF, the Rural Infrastructure Fund. I have to imagine that building is something that we could pursue funding toward.
Yep. Mindy made sure I got that update, so it's on our radar. Thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you.
Okay, I have a few responses to that, but I'll wait until Councilor Burns has a chance to give her council report.
Okay. All right. Change, start. Okay. So it's pet parade time. And the first thing is we have these banners that Public Works hangs for us. And I'd like to have them hung the first week in September. If you could make sure it gets on the schedule to have them.
Yeah, the application.
I was just going to say, and I don't remember, Counselor, because I was so new, I don't remember if that was given to you last year, but there is actually a banner application. So it just kind of, there wouldn't be a cost associated with it because it's a city event, but there is just a short form to fill out for those. So I'll get that emailed to you. We can definitely.
So that they get hung.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will get that to you. We'll definitely get it on the schedule.
I love forms.
I know how much you do.
Okay, and so let's see. I've been recruiting. One thing that I do not possess the skills to do is the site map. I didn't save it from last year. It's going to be exactly the same setup as the other previous 2 years, but I can't do it. So.
We will take a look. I think the first thing we can do is look at last year's application and see if it was in there. If,
I thought you had mentioned that you were gonna ask Mr. Johnson to look and then came back and said, no, can't find it.
Was that for the pet parade or was that for?
well, I'll tell you what, we'll double check just to be sure. If we don't find it, then kind of like we did, and we probably should anyway, but kind of like we did last year for the event, we can have you in, sit with staff, we'll talk it over and we can kind of help you
Okay.
get it
I would.
scratched out. You bet.
And so then, I'm not gonna have the flyers printed professionally since can you get a heavier stock of paper rather than just regular copier paper to have them printed, have the flyers printed here?
How many are you wanting on that?
I want maybe 100.
Let me take a look at the cost of that because higher stock paper is not cheap. I don't know if I could guarantee you 100. I would say yes, we can definitely get some. Sure.
Even if you can't just regular copier paper, I think we can just do it as inexpensively as possible.
Sure.
And so
we may even have some in the cupboard as well. We may already have some in our inventory, so I'll take a look.
Okay, and Councilor Keating has generously designed our flyer and updates it every year. And I was wondering if it would be helpful if maybe to take it, because I know you're getting really busy, take it off your hands and.
Yes, please.
No, I mean seriously, and if it can be taken care of, and I'm assuming, because I don't know anything about how you fix it, but to change the date and all of that, is it a big ask to have?
I was going to ask, Counselor, is it in a format that is easily shareable with staff or? Okay.
But if you are okay using a past design, I could just change the dates.
Well, we'd have the same one every year, you just
No,
change the dates.
No, I never did it the same. I'm a graphic designer sometimes.
Well, so that was my understanding, so just change the dates, but if you can do that, get that to them and then.
I can take one of the ones I did from the past couple of years and just change the dates, that's fine.
Okay, and then you'll give them the files, so.
Perfect.
Don't have to bug you about
That's
it
fine.
anymore. Okay.
I hold myself to a standard, Jackie. I'm never going to do the same thing twice if I can help it.
There's a bunch more, but I'll wait for the next meeting, but I do want to say that after I left the Wooden Boat Show, I was walking down Main Street and I saw a couple that are new to Toledo. They bought my daughter's house and they were looking at storefronts and I said, what are you doing here? And they said, well, we're looking to open a business. I said, what? And anyway, they told me, I'm not gonna share that, but they said, because we think that this was just melted my heart. We think that Toledo is up and coming.
That.
Yay, you guys,
Yeah.
yay!
That's awesome. That is. Thank you. So you have a new barbershop. Anything else, Councilor?
I will end on that note and leave it to you, my liege.
That's a great note. So I was going to mention one thing, and that is that and I talked to Rich about this. I think Rich just talked to Brian about it, but I had a resident reach out about access to the tennis courts. And I guess there is a sign on the tennis courts that says, hey, key available at the library. And then that led them to the library, and I don't know if they were there during off hours or something, but they were like, wait a minute, we can only use the tennis courts if the library's open. So I talked to Rich, and he said that they're also available at the pool and City Hall. But there's a similar hours, people didn't necessarily recreate during business hours of those facilities. So I bumped off of Rich an idea. He said that I should bring it up with the council of sort of maybe having the keys check outable, kind of like a book, and people could have them for a few days. Harrison, go ahead.
We have a sign out for the tennis court key, and if people are using, they do have to come in because the door has to be unlocked for them to come pick it up from us. But if they're going to be using it after hours, we just have them throw it in the book drop when they're done.
Gotcha. But can they pick it up on a Friday and use it on a Sunday and bring it back on a Monday kind of thing?
The issue with that then is if someone wants.
So the whole point that it's locked and people have to get the key is because right after we spent oodles of money to have it resurfaced, It was vandalized.
I know, but this can't be mom's fine china, like, where we'd be like, look at it up in the, it's like, I'm so glad we have a nice tennis court that we don't use.
That's part of the reason we don't leave the bathrooms open 24 hours a day also, because they get vandalized.
Yeah.
How are you like proceed?
So the use case that I'm talking about is like, say that which I don't play tennis, I'm not the resident. But say that I want to use the tennis court on Sunday, right? When everything's closed. Then I could come, my question is, can I come get a key from you while you're open, keep the key, use it when you're closed, bring the key back later?
Yeah, if someone comes in and they want to use it.
Like, can I check the key out for a few days, kind of thing?
We just have a sign out sheet so we know who has the key.
Yeah.
We don't have a super formal process in place. The issue with that would be we have a key. So if somebody is like, I'm going to use this Monday night and I'm going to go to the library and pick it up on Saturday, and then they've left with the only key and nobody else gets to use it until that person feels like using it and returning it.
Well, there's two core, so like maybe just like more keys is.
I'm just describing kind of the situation we have now. Is it sort of pick up the key, unlock the thing, and hook it back in when you're done? So
I understand why it's locked. I'm just trying to figure out how to get people access to it.
And that was where my brain was going, because what we wouldn't want to do is have you check out the key on Saturday, have it until Monday, and leave it unlocked the whole time. So we would probably need, if we went with this type of system, we'd probably need a few more keys, so that I know you're not the resident, but so Eric could come get one on Saturday, Andrew could get one on Saturday because he wants to use it on Sunday. Right, and so that we're not then saying, yeah, just leave it open for 3 days.
I think an agreement that they'll keep it locked, I think multiple keys, I mean, I think all that's reasonable. If we can help people access it during times that businesses aren't open, that would be great.
Context question, the pool is closed on Sundays?
No, it's not.
The pool hours are, oh gosh, like 10 to 3 or something on Sundays, so.
Okay, so the reason I ask is City Hall is open, the library is closed on Sundays and Mondays.
Sundays and Mondays, right.
City Hall is open on Mondays, the pool is open on Sundays, right? So the reason I mention it is if we had, say, 3 keys, there could be a place that always is, there could, during business hours anyway.
There is keys at each location.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's always a place that a key is available outside of like early hours or late hours. Every day there is a place that someone could get a key.
And if someone's going to be using it after hours, as does happen sometimes, if someone comes in before close, like I said, they can just pick up the key, take it to the courts, we lock up, and they throw it in the book drop.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
But that assumes that they can come in the evening that they want to recreate. Like, so again, not the use case, but I work in Newport. So if I wanted to use the tennis court on a Thursday night, I would need to drive during the business day to the library, check out the key, drive back to work, go play tennis in the evening, drop off the key afterwards. Whereas if actually a good example, I work 410s. So as an alternative, I could come in on a Friday, check the key out, use the tennis courts during the off hours over the weekend or something like that, dump it in the box when I'm done.
Devil's advocate, I can't walk into the library and check out a book on a Sunday.
Right.
So I'm just kind of making an example like.
Sounds like what you want is if there was a place, a 24-hour place.
Yeah.
We could.
No, but like what I'm talking about is people being able to play tennis in the evening. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you can't check out a book
later.
24 hours, but that's a red herring.
A city place that is open later.
Like, I'm talking about people being able to go in, use the existing means, go into these facilities when it's convenient for them to check out a key and keep the key for a little while, whatever the appropriate amount is, a week, I don't know, and then turn it in when they're done.
There's also the question, the public parks are typically a dawn till dusk thing, right? So there is a point at which the park is.
After business hours tennis, dusk isn't 5 p.m. Like,
just following up, he said there's no after hours tennis. We don't have lighting for it anyways.
Right.
So there's no dark hours tennis. Sorry, it's differentiating between business hours when you can check out the keys and the evening hours that are still lit when you would
So to clarify my point about like, I can't go in and check out a book on Sunday. What I mean by that is I imagine that the system that's currently set up doesn't necessarily prevent somebody from going in to the pool at 10 o'clock on a Sunday and getting a key, and however it gets returned could get returned on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. Access to the keys, the pickup of the key can happen on any day.
Sure.
And the return can happen at any point thereafter.
That's what I'm asking.
It's a sheet. It's a sheet that you write your name and your contact info and you take the key. That's at the level of formality we have now. And it assumes kind of day use, hey, I'm gonna run over there. If the key went missing for a while, it would be a problem. During the week, if somebody comes in and is like, can I check out the key? And we're like, well, somebody took it and we haven't seen it since, and we're gonna need to call them.
That's right. The multiple key solution helps resolve that.
And then yeah, so that's just our
Like if
our
you
current
copy the book,
process.
you get multiple copies of it.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, no, we do.
It's complicated.
So I don't know how council feels about it. My sense is that if we can make it easier for our residents to responsibly use our recreational assets, it would be a good thing to do that.
Does each location have a Dropbox for the keys to go after hours?
I can't speak for anyone at the library. We have a Dropbox and it's a safe place for any after hours return.
Yeah, City Hall's got the utility payment drop box out
Yeah.
front that you can drop it in, so the pool is really the only one I'm not sure about off the top of my head.
And I mean, we share a parking lot with the pool, so if somebody threw something for the pool in a book drop, we're happy to walk it over too and have that be a process.
Because to my mind, it feels partially like it's more of a signage issue of when you're going to use the tennis courts, telling you where keys are available, right? And there are 3 places and one of them will be open for much of the day on every single day. So if there's a signage issue, if there's signage that says, here are the 3 places to get the keys.
And I think really to your point, Counselor, when you said, I can't go check out a book on Sunday. No, you can't, but you can get one on Friday and you can keep it for, a duration, right? A week, 2 weeks. So I think the same, I think if there's a consensus by council that you'd like us to explore something, I think we definitely can, put together potentially a proposal that we come back and say, each location is going to have X number of keys. They can be checked out at, for this length of time. I think the real thought process there then also becomes, as Harrison said, right now, all I have to do is come in, sign a form. If you're going to take the key for a week rather than, a couple hours, there probably needs to be a little bit more robust form in which you say, I am taking accountability for,
the year-round training program that starts at 7 a.m. every day.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm going to need that key in perpetuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, honestly, great. Like, if somebody's going to use it every day at 7 a.m., it's awesome. Like, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know that you need to come back unless anybody feels like what you just described, I think is a good system. And so I don't.
There was a sign that denoted where the keys are available. It might be ripped off though.
I don't know. I just
on the courts.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that having people agree to keep it locked or whatever is great, but if we can just make it a little bit easier, it's awesome.
Very good.
Okay, I know it's 9 o'clock. I don't want to keep us much later. I do want to just respond a little bit to Councilor Keating's comments because I'm probably the instigator here a little bit on this one. I wasn't on council during prior discussions to this. At least 3 of us weren't, unless Stu was before on council when this was being discussed. I think we all know that the previous council can't, from a policy perspective, bind the hands of a future council. So I don't think it's sort of the sunk cost fallacy of like, we had all of this work into this idea and now people don't like that idea, so I want the old idea. I think we do have the prerogative to articulate the community's priorities as we see fit. And as we sit here right now, maybe a future council will see it in a different way. I don't know. From my perspective, I mean, literally since my first city council meeting last December, I've been very clear about my perspective on this. So I hope you don't feel like I have changed my perspective as it relates to the issue. I do feel very strongly that our civic functions belong in our historic city hall on our historic Main Street. I think our Main Street is in crisis right now. Even the scenario that you described where the History Center would move in would be another empty storefront where the History Center is currently on Main Street. So I absolutely, I want to be clear that I don't, from my perspective, it's not that we're throwing away a lot of past work. My perspective is maybe there was a consensus at one point, that consensus changed. And now we're trying to look for that overlap in the Venn diagram of things that we all agree on in terms of the programming for the new building. I do think it's super important that we all agree on it. And that's why I meant to ask last week, hey, was that no, I'm not there. And if we're not there, then we probably need to regroup a little bit. I'm not concerned. My concern isn't that if we ask for this same thing or whatever, that the legislature's not going to fund it. My concern is that I don't think it's a good idea. So and again, people can disagree on that issue, but I wanted to be clear about what my perspective is on that and why.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, so you can certainly respect. I have to say, I'm sure everybody wants to go home at some point,
Sure.
so we should.
I'll be
we can get a beer and talk about this for a long time, but
I'll be super.
We're out of here.
I promise I'll be very, very brief and just say that it was always to my point was more that I don't feel like I feel like we made a decision that wasn't the same as the discussion we had. That since you came on, yes, you have shared, your perspective, and I don't necessarily disagree. But we never had a formal, planned, intentional discussion about the use of that building. What we had last meeting was a discussion about whether or not to authorize new plans being drafted for it. And what we ended up having was a decision on the use of the building. So I think my point is to say, I felt more frustration that since you came on board, I feel like we've always been kind of gearing up for eventually having the discussion. That wasn't it. And then I felt that I was in a position that I was voting on a discussion that we didn't have.
I don't disagree with that. In fact, I expressed concern to the city manager that the item was in the agenda at all. Why do we have an architectural item on the opposite direction that makes a decision about programming? Because it was deciding to move the council chambers to the building, which of course I don't agree with. So it forced a quicker decision. Yeah. I believe the right decision. But it forced that decision, I think, in that way, and that could have been driven by the timeline, trying to get ready for the legislature. I understand it, but I think that was the reason that felt so stilted and quick.
And I'll just mention really quick, and like Councilor Keating, I'll be very brief, but to Council President Chambers' point, he did bring up with me, should this have been a discussion ahead of time? I kind of felt like, as the city manager, it's my responsibility to make a recommendation. And council can decide whether to accept that recommendation, make an amendment, that sort of thing. And it was also very much kind of driven by the timeline. So I appreciate the conversation and the feedback, because if that should have been a discussion item and then a vote at a later meeting, then that's helpful for me kind of going forward in kind of figuring out where the line of I'm going to make a recommendation on this and let them vote it yay or nay, as opposed to having discussion ahead of time. So this is helpful for me, and just wanted to note that and say thank you.
Any further business to come before the council? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned.